Everyone, and welcome to
Recording in
this
progress.
April 29th meeting of the Somerville School Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2024, this meeting of the school committee will be conducted via hybrid participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. Dr. Carmona, will you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Barish,
I'm here.
Mayor Valentine, President Owen Campen, Mr. Green, Mr. Biton,
Here.
Ms. Biton,
Present.
Dr. Ackman,
Here.
Dr. Phillips,
Here.
Chair Krebsen.
Here.
We have quorum.
We will now introduce our interpreters. Spanish, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Caroline Pulido. Voy a ser su intérprete en español el día de hoy. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Caroline. I will be the Spanish interpreter for tonight.
Thank you. And Portuguese?
Good evening. My name is Suela de Carne, and I'll be your Portuguese interpreter for tonight. To listen to this meeting in Portuguese, click the globe on the bottom of the page of your screen and select the language. Boa noite, meu nome é Sueli de Carne e eu serei sua intérprete de português essa noite. Para ouvir essa reunião em português, clique no globo no pé da página e selecione a linguagem.
And Haitian Creole?
Good evening. My name is Angie Supri. I'll be your Haitian Creole interpreter for tonight. Bonsoir tout le monde. Même c'est Angie. Moi, interpréter pour nous à soeur. Si nous besoin créole haïtien, cliquez sur go blanc.
Haitian Creole, are you able to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
I am on you. Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angie Supri. I'll be your Haitian Creole interpreter for tonight. Bonsoir tout le monde. Nom c'est Angie. M'a interprété pour nous à soeur. Si nous besoin créole haïtien, tant pour cliquer sur globe blanc, choisir français pour créole haïtien. Merci.
We will now have a moment of silence in honor of someone specific that Dr. Carmona is going to mention before we do our moment of silence and salute to the flag.
Thank you, Chair. So first up, I would like to share our deep condolences and ask for a moment of silence for Franklin DeLambert, who has been a pillar in our community. More than 30 years ago, Franklin DeLambert founded the Haitian Coalition Right here in Somerville. He was a fearless leader for immigrant-related issues in the city and fought for the rights of Haitian residents at a challenging time for our Haitian brothers and sisters. He advocated strongly for the creation of multilingual parent information center for the Somerville Public Schools and for the vital need to have a Haitian Creole member on that team. That team member, Marjorie Alexander, is still with us after 29 years working for our enrollment office. He continued this important work until the end of his life, and his legacy will continue. Please join me in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That brings us to the report of our student representatives.
Hi, my name is Katarina Dinka. And
Hold on a minute, I just want to make sure we can hear you. Is there any way to turn it up?
Can you hear me?
Give us just a minute to make it a little louder. Okay, try again, please.
Hi, my name is Katarina Dinka, and I'm a school rep. As of right now, the seniors are preparing for their prom, which is May 17th, down in Woburn at the Crown Plaza Hotel, and tickets go on sale this week.
I'm Marcus Odin, another representative, and we also have our AP test beginning next week, spanning that week and the following. A few other senior events coming up include the National Honor Society Ice Cream Social tomorrow, a senior field day coming up after our class day rehearsal, and of course our graduation. We also have our valedictorian and salutatorian announced, and our speeches are due this week. At graduation, there will be a student performing a poem for our class as well, and we will have our class song at class day, as is tradition. It's an exciting time as seniors prepare to depart from the school, and there has been an increase in school spirit recently, which I have been happy to see. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad to hear about the increase in school spirit this year and all the exciting events happening as we lead up to graduation. Are there any questions or comments for our student reps? Okay, with that, thank you for joining us this evening. Next, we have approval of minutes. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from January 22nd, 2024, February 5th, 2024, and February 26th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Phillips, seconded by Dr. Ackman. Mr. Jones.
Before voting on that, I'd like to just offer the correction on the February 5th to have my name put in place of my predecessors.
Okay, we will make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you for noticing that. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to public comment. So I will first read our public comment policy, and then I will call 3 people at a time so you know who's coming next. Welcome and thank you to those who have signed up for public comment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. However, the chair may limit comments to 2 minutes based on the number of individuals signed up to speak. And because we do have quite a few individuals this evening, I will be limiting it to 2 minutes. We will have a timer up on the board so you'll know how much time you have. Speakers should begin their comments by stating their name and address, or in the case of district employees, their role within the district. The chair of the meeting, after a warning, reserves the right to terminate speech which is not constitutionally protected because it constitutes true threats that are likely to provoke a violent reaction and cause a breach of the peace or incitement to imminent lawless conduct or which contains obscenities. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between the public and the committee. Members of the committee will not reply to public comment in the course of the meeting, though individual members may follow up and items from public comment may be taken up in future meetings. The school committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any member of the school community in public session. Individuals may address topics on the agenda or items within the school committee's scope of responsibility, such as the district budget, goals and policies, or role of the superintendent. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing for inclusion in the public record. So with that, I have Kelly Dixon, then April Luna, then Matt Collins. Kelly Dixon, if you want to come to the podium.
Kelly Dixon. Oh, sorry. I'm writing to you to seek support to add an additional academic evaluator position to the district to have 3 total academic evaluators. Evaluators provide testing for special education eligibility for students with suspected disabilities or for those already on IEPs. The position entails doing a review of the student's record, administering diagnostic assessments in all areas of suspected disability, analyzing results, writing the confidential academic reports, and going to the academic meeting to set up, to give the report. All of these in total can equal approximately 9 hours per student, this process. This year, my academic evaluator role was a 1-year assignment filling a maternity leave until January. When the other staff members returned, I stayed in this role until the end of the year. This school year, there has been an enormous number of referrals, almost double from last year's amount. Last year, one evaluator completed 57, and this year, its total is 103. This is with 3 academic evaluators. Given our current data pattern, if we only have 2 evaluators, we can anticipate at least 150 evaluations. The position of the evaluator was created at the last negotiations in order to alleviate the time that special educators spent on testing so they could spend their time teaching, and therefore students could make effective progress in order to access the curriculum. However, given the current referral pattern, 2 evaluators are not enough. Resource room teachers will have to pick up the testing instead, which is already happening now with 3 current evaluators. The special educators will spend the majority of their time evaluating students, which means less time focused on instruction and learning, which is not the intention. It was not the intention at negotiations. I'm here tonight to advocate to the school committee to keep the 3 evaluators, which will add 1 more position to the current budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have April Luna, then Matt Collins, then Judy Scafidi. April Luna?
Good evening. My name is April Luna, and I teach 6th grade at the Winter Hill. I'm here tonight to speak about the changes for the upcoming school year and specifically about the removal of Chad Mazza as in his role as assistant superintendent for the upcoming school year. As someone who's been at Winter Hill for the past 6 years, first I had Chad as a principal and understood what kind of advocate he could be for us, but then since he transitioned to his role at Central, I feel that we've had a great advocate, no greater advocate to understand the needs of Winter Hill when we were in Sycamore and now that we're at the Edgerly. It's concerning for me to think about what will happen next year without Chad in that specific role. I think he uniquely understands the humans behind the 311 submissions that we've had to put in, and he also understands how to prioritize those needs. He understands that there's actual people and teachers and staff behind the requests or students behind the requests that are being made. For one example, when we needed mats, when the 311 came in for mats for the ramp entrance, for the handicap entrance at Edgerly, he understood that the reason that the request needed to be prioritized was because that my co-teacher, Matt Collins, had fallen that morning because there were not mats. I'm worried without Chad to fill the role for the district that our needs and the needs of other schools will get lost in the shuffle, just in the 311 abyss that everybody in the city submits for. I'm concerned just overall with the current economic climate and the need for cuts, that the human cost and the greater impact on students are not being considered fully. It's more than just money and ways to find it. The changes like the one being proposed will have a greater impact on staff and students in the next year, just like the proposed changes to the academic evaluators for next year. Any cuts are going to have direct impact on our students. Thank you for your time.
Next, I have Matt Collins, Judy Scafidi, and then Rami Bridge.
Hello, my name is Matt Collins. I am a 6th grade ELA and social studies teacher at the Winter Hill at Edgerly. I'm here to talk about the cut to the Chad Mazza's position as superintendent of operations. I know that there have been 2 situations this year that he's been able to help prioritize. First, you heard about the mats and my fall. The second was a mishap with the elevator where I was separated from my service dog, Bonnie. I was inside holding the leash. She was outside, and there was no way to stop the elevator. That could have been disastrous. She could have died. And I'm also thinking about that got fixed because it did not fall into the abyss of 311. I've been at Winter Hill for 10 years, and there is this, well, what do they want now attitude sometimes when we submit a 311. And feeling that Chad was there, who knew the human side to what we needed, had experienced and lived it with us, I felt somebody had our back. Right now, I feel with the elimination of the assistant superintendent of operations, it's just another gut punch to a community, a school community that has taken on quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Julie Scafidi, Rami Bridge, and then Cara Dodd. Julie, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Julie Scafidi, and I am 7th and 8th grade teacher at Winter Hill. I have been at Winter Hill for 14 years now, so I was there throughout Chad's principal time there as well as superintendent, and throughout it all, he has had all of our backs, and I feel no matter what has happened, he has always had support for us, the students, and other members of the community. He is a strong advocate for us and has done everything he could to make sure that us at Winter Hill as well as the other schools have what they need. And I feel at a time when we are trying to make plans for buildings and operations and he's making all of these strides, that cutting him is a disastrous idea. We put him in because of all of the things that fell through the cracks. And now that he's making strides on this, we're pulling the rug out from underneath him, as well as all of us. I also feel like it's kind of a personal attack on Winter Hill because he is our support. He is one of the supporters, and by knocking that down, you are literally knocking down our building because he is one of the strongest supporters for us and our community, and it's just one more thing. It's a figurative structure that is falling down by removing him. And I think it really should be reconsidered because we need someone in charge so that our schools all don't keep crumbling and we're not all having to rebuild every single building because of the 301 abyss. Literally, Winter Hill has been totally falling apart since I've been there, and he has backed us and pushed for everything we've needed, and now it's being taken away, and it's going to be taken away from all the other schools that are going to need him in the future as well. Thank you.
Next, I have Rami Bridge, Cara Dodd, and then Amelia Flynn. Rami, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Rami Bridge, and I live in Magoon Square. I am here to talk kind of out of left field tonight, but to talk about my concerns with the Food Services Department. Last year, I privately brought my concerns about the lack of vegetarian options. As a parent of a vegetarian, too often I would see that the only option for vegetarians was a salad. This was surprisingly not an exciting option for my first grader. I think it's been better this year, but there is still room for improvement. But this year my issue is much larger, which is why I'm here tonight. This morning the school menu said it was a Fenway Frank all-beef hot dog on the website. I told my son it was a hot dog, which is one of his favorite foods, and he told me he couldn't have it because it was made with pork. I told him it says beef on the website, and he said, no, it's definitely pork. It turns out my 6-year-old is a more reliable reporter than our Food Services Department because after I spoke to my school administrators and they looked into the school menu, the school menu online now says today's menu had beef and pork hot dog on a bun. I just want to let that sink in for a second that my 6-year-old has the accurate information and the school menu did not. It is unacceptable that our district, which prides ourselves on promoting equity, is serving students pork and calling it beef. We have Muslim students and Jewish students who don't eat pork. Frankly, I don't know why we're even serving pork at all. Why do we need to have a ham sandwich on the menu when it could just be a turkey sandwich? Why do we need to serve pulled pork when it could just be pulled chicken? We can be more inclusive if we care enough to do something about it. I am asking school committee to create a policy about promoting an equitable and inclusive school menu, and I hope to see it added to the agenda at one of the subcommittees as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I have Cara Dodd, Amelia Flynn, and then Deshawn Simmons. Cara, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Kara, and I'm a Somerville resident and educator at Winter Hill. I'm here to speak in support of keeping the current academic evaluator staffing at 3 instead of going down to 2. While we understand the department intends to have testing evaluation model that was more like what was proposed years ago, where special education teachers complete the bulk of testing and the academic evaluators at the central office do the overflow of testing, it's a model that's not sustainable for educators and it's not productive for student learning and student progress. Every 3 years, students are reevaluated and testing is required as part of that process to determine eligibility for special education. For students with suspected disability impacting their access to the curriculum, this academic testing is also a requirement. This process of scheduling testing, scoring, and writing a report and reporting on the testing during the IEP meeting can take from 5 to 9 hours total. The proposed model would mean that students will inevitably miss services mandated by their IEP while resource room teachers are doing this testing. Missed services have great consequences. Trauma-informed teaching tells us that routines and structure create a sense of safety for students that helps them learn their best. When services have to be missed, it creates stress for students and educators alike. Data I have collected in the past few years shows the obvious. When I spend more time providing direct, specialized instructions, my students demonstrate far more growth than when I'm pulled to do paperwork and evaluating. For months, we've heard our district leaders say that we need to ensure our students receive quality instruction and that time on learning is a district priority. This proposed policy is out of line with the district priorities. This budget will decide if the district wants to use resource room staff for teaching or for testing. I urge you to fund 3 evaluator positions so that resource room teachers can be in alignment with the district goals of time on learning and quality instruction. Thank you.
Next, I have Amelia Flynn, then Deshawn Simmons, and then Emily Lalka. Amelia, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Amelia Flynn, and I am a special education teacher at the Healy School. I'm here to speak in support of keeping the current academic evaluator staffing at 3 instead of going down to 2. While we understand the department intends to have the testing evaluation model more like it was proposed years ago, where the special education educators complete the bulk of the testing and the academic evaluators at central office will do the overflow, it is a model that is not sustainable for educators. I teach students with moderate disabilities, and I have a caseload of 15. Without the 3 academic evaluators this year, I would have likely had to complete 8 academic evaluations. Right now, I'm being asked to complete 2, as well as juggling MCAS. Each evaluation takes around 9 hours to complete. This includes the time for the actual testing and scoring and then writing the report. That means I would have to spend around 72 hours testing and writing reports this year. That means 72 hours taken out of my service time. Even if I pushed all the scoring and report writing to the half-day Wednesdays, it is still 24 hours to test all 8 students. Also, I teach moderate special needs. The students on my caseload have the skills to sit through longer testing sessions, so I can get more done in a shorter amount of time. If you need to test someone that has attention deficits or other behaviors that affect the testing, it could easily take 4 hours to test 1 student instead of 2 or 3. Having all 3 academic evaluators is a necessity. It allows teachers to do what we are meant to do, teach. In a year where we were not able to meet all of the legally mandated service hours for this school year, I could not imagine taking away another 72 hours from my students. For months, we have heard that our district leaders say that we need to ensure all students are getting what they need in the classroom. This would go a long way to ensuring that happens. Thank you.
I have Deshawn Simmons, then Emily Lalka, and then Shu Talon. Deshawn, floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deshawn Simmons, Ward 7 resident, Somerville Middle School educator, and I'm the proud president of the Somerville Educators Union. As an educator who has taught during and this post-pandemic phase, I've seen firsthand the support our students need. One of the ways our students receive that support is through our special education department. Without getting into the details and nuance, when a family requests that their child be tested for an IEP, a legal clock starts. The special education staff have 30 days once consent for testing is received to complete the testing, prepare the report, and have the meeting with the family. And while this might not seem like a large task, take that one case, multiply it by 13 or 15 students, and we heard tonight that one case can take minimum 9 hours. Even with 3 academic evaluators this year, educators have been drowning in the work, and reducing staffing levels would truly make this work unsustainable. The SCU fully understands the department's decision to apply the testing model in the way it was intended, with resource room educators completing the bulk of the testing and academic evaluators will handle the overflow. The concern here is that educators in the building will have to decide between testing a student so they can get services that they need, or giving the students that are currently on their caseload the services that they need. It's an impossible decision that we are putting our educators in. And again, this is going to lead to burnout among our educators. And there's concerns about staying within legal compliance, keeping licensure, all by trying to do the right thing by students and families. Lastly, the SU members have asked me to name that with the reorganization of the central office, the district stands to lose Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Mr. Chad Mazza. Chad has served this district faithfully for over a decade, having become a lifelong Wildcat from his time as principal at the Winter Hill Community Innovation School. I've worked closely with Chad personally as we work to revamp our summer programming model for our students. I can say with certainty that Chad has had a tremendous part in our Somerville community. Thank you.
I have Emily Lalka, Shu Talon, and then Joe Johnson. Emily, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm Emily Lalka, a Somerville resident and treasurer of Somerville Council of PTAs. On behalf of the Somerville Council of PTAs, the parents and caregivers in our community, and most importantly, our students, we're here to express concerns about cuts to funding and staff for Somerville Public Schools in the coming school year. As you've heard, it's vitally important we maintain level funding and support for our most vulnerable members of our community. Our district's currently failing to meet our educational objectives and students' needs. It's reflected in our testing data, our struggling readers, our wait lists for counselors, our testing backlogs. We can't accept this as good enough. Our students and our educators need more. We must maintain level funding with a minimum true 7% increase, and we should be looking at an 8% increase in the budget to do more than maintain our status quo. Our children can't afford deferred services in education. We know this from experience. They've been trying to make up COVID learning loss for years. Unmet needs today impact their tomorrow, and the time to invest in our students is now. We are thankful for the much-needed previously ESSER-funded positions that are hopefully being maintained and recognize the long-term planning that went into maintaining these roles. And there continues to be a great need for these services. And continuing these roles will bring us closer to equitable access to high-quality instruction and support services. With this planning in mind, we are asking that the city not push their $334,000 in health insurance costs associated with these roles onto the SPS budget. It would be unprecedented to add this cost to our school budget and reduce services funded in a 6.7 to 7% budget increase. We need transparency around what our students actually need to move forward and what's in line in a level service budget. We ask the school committee to have the superintendent's office prepare a list of what could be gained in an 8% budget increase. Our families have experienced firsthand what happens when what is deferred directly impacts our students' ability to go to school, learn, and be supported in a safe, equitable learning environment. And we ask you to advocate for SPS students and their futures with an 8% increase. Thank you.
Next, I have Shu Talon, Joe Johnson, and then Becky Lopes-Filio.
Hello. Our son Louis, who's sitting over there, is a second grader at the Argenziano School. Louis has Down syndrome, and we are urging you to fully fund this SPS budget and amply fund services needed to support our children with disabilities like Louis. And as it stands, after looking at last year's budget, the special education department really lacks the staff, programming, and support that will allow Somerville's disabled children to realize their potential in neighborhood schools. The effective cuts in the proposed budget that are now being contemplated would make this worse. Here are some of the needs based on our observation. Academics. We did the academic testing and scored extremely low scores, but yet we're still fighting with the special ed department on a reasonable level of support within the classroom. Summer is a great opportunity for children with learning disabilities to catch up on the curriculum, but there's no academically focused programs that exist that are accessible currently. Specialized instructions need to be expanded beyond what a general resource room specialist can provide. Not all disabilities are the same. Training specific to special needs for all existing staff need to be funded. We know the benefits that inclusive classrooms can provide to both children with special needs and their peers, but classroom teachers and staff need the tools, training, and support to be able to properly execute this. And finally, structured non-academic after-school or summer programs are needed. There are none that are truly inclusive, and what inclusivity looks like is to actually have low student-to-teacher ratios. You can have a child enroll in something, but you need to provide the staffing to help them thrive. So, thank you.
Next, I have Joe Johnson, Becky Lopes-Filio, and Amy Myrtle.
Hi, I'm Joe Johnson. Excuse me. I live in Ward 6. And I'm here at the sort of urging of the PTA committee, and I want to echo some of the comments that you just heard. I'd like to first ask for full funding of the budget. Like, I think, you know, a 7% at the bare minimum, and hopefully 8%. It sounds like some of the other things we're hearing about roles that need to not get cut might be helped by that, by actually funding the budget. And I'd also like to ask the school committee to take those requests and build out a further, more complete list of the things that we would do with that budget. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Next, I have Becky Lopes-Filio, Amy Myrtle, and then Mary Lou Carey Sterniolo.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Becky Lopez-Filio. I'm a resident in Ward 4, a parent of 2 Somerville Public Schools students, as well as the Kennedy School PTA president, and I'm on our advocacy committee, and have been organizing around a fully funded SPS budget. I just am here to echo Emily's requests, and specifically, I would like to ask the committee to encourage the superintendent's office to prepare an 8% budget to fully explain what we're missing between 8% and 7%. I realize that's not currently on the table, and we would like it to be. As everything you've heard so far tonight attests to, we are struggling. There are cuts on the table right now, including within central office, that will negatively impact many of our students, our educators, and our families. We are making these cuts, and they don't sound like cuts when you don't frame them as cuts, but realistically, they are. We're making them on the backs of the most vulnerable people in our community, and I want the school committee to understand that our priority as a city is on the line. I really want to urge you to be courageous in this moment. So thank you for your time.
Next, I have Amy Myrtle and then Mary Lou Carey Sterniolo.
Hello, my name is Amy. I am a resident of Ward 1 and the PTA president at East Somerville. I joined the PTA during remote learning in 2021 because the equity gaps in our schools suddenly seemed so immense. But I quickly learned that these gaps, while they were worsened by COVID, were present long before, and what COVID did was mainly expose these gaps to people like me who had previously drifted about in ignorance. We may look at our schools now and think, hey, we've recovered from COVID, things are back to normal, let's focus our budget priorities elsewhere. But even if that were true, normal was not near good enough then, and it's not near good enough now. As parents, as school committee members, we have to keep pushing for a budget that will allow us to actually move forward and close these massive equity gaps. We have to push the city for an 8% increase at least. And school committee, as previous speakers have asked, I request that you try to publicly demonstrate what kind of equity advances could be funded with an 8% budget increase to help push that pressure on. Some of that might include some of the requests that we heard here tonight for additional SPED evaluators and additional funding for other imperatives. It's particularly important that the city absorb the cost of busing for the Winter Hill Community School, as it is the decades of city neglect for that building that necessitate the buses to begin with. Thank you very much.
Mary Lou Carey Sterniolo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Lou Carey Sterniolo. I am a resident of Somerville, 37 Willow Ave. I'm also one of the family liaisons at the Winter Hill School in my 13th year. I would like to publicly thank and acknowledge Mr. Chad Mazza this evening. This year, under new leadership and transition in the school department, as well as an extremely uncertain period for our students, families, and staff of Winter Hill, one consistent and reassuring presence for all has been Mr. Chad Mazza. Amongst the many responsibilities that he has throughout the district. I want to tell you about one particular day that stands out for me when we were at the Winter Hill building at 115 Sycamore at the end of last year, transitioning our students to Tufts. Mr. Mazza was waiting to load the students into the van. He was dancing with the little ones, playing ball with them, and sitting on the ground with chalk. Yes, he is an advocate for Winter Hill, but make no mistake about it, he stands for all students, from pre-K to Somerville High School in Somerville Public Schools. I strongly believe that this is what we want from our educators, someone who really cares about each and every student, family, and staff in the district. Thank you, Mr. Mazzo.
And now we have one public commenter on Zoom, Jennifer Zachariah. Give us just a moment. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Hold on just a moment.
Yep.
Okay, try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Hello, my name is Jennifer Zacharias. I'm a former resource room teacher of 11 years who is now on the academic evaluation team. I'm here to speak in support of keeping the current academic evaluation position at 3 people instead of decreasing it to 2 people. This will affect my team and me personally. While I understand the special education department intends to put the testing back on the resource room teachers and allow the overflow to go to the academic evaluators, as it has in years past, reverting to this model simply won't work. Students' special education services and their learning are guaranteed to suffer. If the district eliminates one academic evaluator position, resource room teachers will be pulled from instructed and services will be missed. Time on teaching and student learning will decrease. Achievement testing for one battery can take up to 8 to 9 hours from start to finish. This includes the administration of the test, scoring, interpretation, writing the evaluation, as well as meeting with families. With a compressed 6-hour school day, this model is not suitable for our students' learning or our educators who belong in the classroom teaching. With resource room teachers doing the bulk of the testing, students will not make effective progress, and the achievement gap will continue to widen. As an academic evaluator, on average, I have 14 evaluations per month, which equates to 112 hours of reporting. Please consider how this will impact student learning. I'm advocating to you, the school committee, to keep the current model of 3 academic evaluators so our special education teachers can teach and our students can learn. If it's really about the students and their learning, make the right decision and keep the 3 evaluators. Thank you for your attention on this matter.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Next item is the report of the superintendent. Dr. Carmona.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for your advocacy, your feedback around the staffing, the special education systems, our budget, and our food needs at every building is critical. I urge you to continue to be engaged in this process, so thank you for your feedback. I'm going to start this week. We have a number of updates and presentations to share that highlight some of the most unique aspects of our district, which are centered around equity, access, and the diversity of our community. Today you will hear from district leaders about how our commitment to students goes beyond the 4 walls of our school buildings. First, you will hear from Ruth Santos and her team from the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative. SFLC is an integral part of SPS and serves as a model for other school districts. Its mission is to enhance the capacity of families and schools to support children's learning and well-being by collaborating with community partners and promoting welcoming, responsive schools and programs. SFLC encompasses our Office of Enrollment, our one-of-a-kind Basic Needs and Housing Support Department, our home visiting program, multilingual pre-groups, and so much more. Next, you will hear from Jocelyn Marty and a few of her students from the Somerville Center for Adult Learning Experiences. SCALE empowers Somerville adults by providing instruction and challenging learning environments to ensure academic and career success. Jocelyn became the director of SCALE in August, and she has already done an amazing job at strategically expanding programming and access. In addition to these representations, we have an MSBA update and an update on the central office reorganization. We also have a number of exciting shout-outs that will highlight the incredible work that students and staff across the districts are engaged in. Before we get into tonight's full agenda, I would like first to acknowledge the protest last week that various students at Somerville High School participated in related to the ongoing violence in Israel and Gaza. First and foremost, at Somerville Public Schools, we unequivocally condemn all anti-Semitic and anti-Palestinian hate. We also continue to be profoundly troubled by the violence that continues to unfold in Gaza and Israel, and the catastrophic conditions impacting the lives of so many innocent people. The disproportionate impact that the violence has on children, women, and innocent civilians is particularly disturbing. We continue to support the rights of our staff and students to exercise the First Amendment rights in a peaceful and safe manner. This, however, does not mean that we endorse any of the messaging of the protesters. We have been clear with our staff that as public employees, we are not allowed to use school time or resources to solicit or advocate for personal or political causes or groups, in accordance with the Massachusetts ethics laws and Somerville Public Schools acceptable use policy for staff. We also made it clear to students and parents that Somerville Public Schools is not responsible for students if they choose to leave campus. We have encouraged parents to speak with their children about their plans, behavior, and safety. Recently, we had the opportunity to delve deeper into our district and better support students and staff through emerging conflicts, including the atrocities in Israel and Gaza, through meetings and engagement with both the students and staff. We remain committed to working through these complex issues with all of you in a comprehensive and thoughtful manner, with the ultimate goal of continuing to ensure an inclusive learning environment for all our students. I'm going to have some shout-outs, and I know that it's kind of an abrupt departure from this to getting into shout-outs, but before we do that, I think let's engage in some of the presentations. So I'm going to have Ruth Santos come up to the podium, please.
Good evening, everybody. Ruth Santos, Director of the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative. Good to see everyone here this evening. The wonderful photo you can see up here is some of our SFLC team. It was actually taken at one of our all SFLC meetings, and it was shortly after we had engaged in a restorative circle practice in order to better understand how this was being implemented in the schools. I remember it actually being a kind of an emotional moment. There was a lot of us talking about how far we were away from our families, how we had people all over the world, and how we brought this understanding and these emotions to the work with us. And then apparently we bounced back pretty quickly because that's where we were then. Next slide. This is a summary of our org chart. I think the SFLC model is unique and fairly visionary in the scope and scale of its family engagement, and that's thanks in great part to my predecessor, Nomi Davidson. I've had other communities come by for site visits and people from state level, and they've all given us really positive feedback about how we do things here. We work with a very strong and trusting distributive leadership model that you can see, with a highly knowledgeable and thoughtful leadership team. But our model is really dependent on the amazing dedication and talents of all of our fantastic staff who work directly with the families. At least 85% of our staff are bilingual and bicultural, and many have additional languages too. But their dedication to the work is really like nothing like I've ever seen. Next slide. Here you can see a summary of our programs. What's hard to demonstrate visually, but what is fundamental to our work, is that we really do provide a pipeline of support, beginning with the very youngest and going all the way through graduation. Because our teams work so closely and know each other so well, there's a level of trust between team members that really is key to supporting families. Each team member knows how and who to refer to and can provide a warm handoff to the next program. We also work incredibly closely with other departments and organizations throughout Somerville, and we're deeply committed to the cross-sector collective impact work. We'll touch on most of these programs this evening in somewhat chronological order, and we'll wrap up with a deeper look at the Office of Basic Needs and Housing Support. There is quite a lot, so we'll pause after looking at some of the other SFLC programs before handing over to Director Regina Bertoldo. So let's start with early childhood, the optimum time, I think, to start engaging families in the public schools. I'm going to hand over in a second to Fernanda Villar, the Director of Early Beginnings and Family Support Programs. She's been with SFLC for over 17 years and has truly been a leader in putting early childhood services in Somerville on the map, both locally and at state level. She and her team are deeply embedded into the community. And as you listen to her talk about all the amazing work you do, I would like to highlight that it all takes place under the funding of the Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Grant out of EEC, with a little foundational funding here and there. The CFCE grant is approximately $350,000 and has been level funded for 7 years. So in effect, this program has been operating at a net loss for 7 years, and somehow the team continues to grow their amazing programs. And I have no idea how they do it, but I'm going to hand you over to Fernanda to explain a little bit more.
Hello. I'm very happy to be here to share our work in our team with you. So I love these pictures because they reflect the people that we work with and the work that we do. You can see a home visiting taking place, outdoor and indoors playgroups at the Growing Center and at the Elizabeth Peabody House, our story walk, and some of our staff at the Children's Trust Conference. And Ana Nieto, pictured here, hosting the Early Childhood Advisory Council, who is the glue that holds the cross-sector work together as we work closely with other departments and community organizations. As Ruth mentioned, all of our programs on the next 2 slides are funded through the CFCE grant, Coordinated Family and Community Engagement, out of EEC, the Department of Early Education and Care. All of our programs are deeply grounded in equity and quality and are free to all families. So our playgroups are currently held at various locations around the city, and we want to give a big shout out to the partners listed here who stepped in to help when we lost our space at Edgerly. So we have playgroups at the Elizabeth Peabody House, Early Head Start, Growing Center, some at the Somerville Public Library, and some online support groups also. This year, in addition to the multilingual playgroups, we have been able to add sessions with the themes of music, STEM, and social-emotional learning. We also offer 4 popular weekly support groups for families. We added a group for parents of multiples this year, and we also hope to add again a fathers group that we ran previously. In terms of workshops for parents of young children, this is the 2nd year we run the very successful Power of Parenting series through Families First. It's a 12-week intensive course designed to strengthen the knowledge, skills, and supports. And we run 1 in Spanish and 1 in English. Maybe another 1 in Portuguese this next year. Families like it so much last year that they requested to repeat this year. so they want to be part of the program once again. We also run a baby sign language course, and we have 3 upcoming workshops on toilet training, social emotional development, and helping children through daily transitions. And all of we also offer interpretation for all of our workshops. For a success, I would like to highlight that we expanded our programming, even though the CFC grant has been level funded for 7 years. And one need, we are still hoping to identify a new permanent space for our playgroups. Because when we left the Edgerly School, we lost our permanent place for playgroups. Next slide. Here's about our home visiting program. So our evidence-based parent-child home visiting program is an example of how deeply SFLC is embedded in the community. We are funded to serve 60 families facing educational and literacy barriers. This number makes us one of the biggest programs in Massachusetts. I think we are just behind Boston and Worcester, if I'm not wrong. These 60 families receive 46 visits a year, nearly always in their home languages. The visits are designed to support early literacy, but they are so much more than that. On top of the referrals to general supports and resources for families, such as summer programs, diapers, or winter clothes, we also provide enhanced referrals, which include support enrollment into pre-K programs throughout the city, walking families through the early intervention and special education process, and help them navigate the challenge all the way towards stability. We are a big part of ensuring families with young children get the supports they need at the critical time in their children's lives. One of the pieces we are really proud is that our home visitors are nearly all homegrown and came through the program themselves. Most of them are Somerville residents who participated in the home visiting program and then became home visitors and have their kids in public school nowadays. Word of our program spreads by word of mouth through our home visitors and families we serve. We keep in touch with many of our families and often provide them with a warm handoff to our wonderful enrollment team when the time comes. Here there is a picture of Erica, who is a home visitor now. She graduated with her child in the program, and now she's a home visitor, and she's in the Parent-Child Plus graduation with Tatiana and Benicio, who is now at the Capuano. So thank you. I don't know if you want to come back. I will pass to you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
So the next slide talks about our family engagement in SPS. The photos show the work that we do at the clothing pantry, the food markets, various fairs. I can see outreach there for the enrollment office, and I can see Kaylee Galitano, Equity Director, who was training SFLC on best practices around LGBTQ and gender topics when it comes to supporting families. Next slide. I know you heard from Enrollment Director Teresa Rodriguez recently, so I'm not going to go over all the details there again, and I know she highlighted how much the enrollment team rises to the challenge of being the welcoming face. Here we can see pictures of enrollment specialist Fernanda Alves demystifying the SPS enrollment process for the Brazilian community on Nossa Radio, and on the left a kindergarten orientation at the east, and on the right the team modeling the hats and gloves that they give away to families during the winter enrollment sessions. You can also see here that 31.5% of families benefit from the in-person support that the enrollment team offers. And many of these, as Fernanda said, are referrals from the early childhood team. Many are newcomers to the city, many are newcomers to the country. On top of going the extra mile to get children registered as expediently as possible, the enrollment team is often a point of referral for other SFLC programs and outside services, such as, the next slide, the wonderful liaison team. We have a couple of our liaisons here this evening, Francesca and Mary Lou. One of the first warm handoffs that the enrollment team makes is to the school liaison team. The enrollment office has postcards with pictures and contact details and languages for each liaison, and these are also available on the website. Liaisons try to reach every new family in the school to begin to build that trusting relationship with them that becomes so fundamental moving forward. The liaisons are a truly incredible team. We've listed here some of the many functions of their jobs: hosting open houses, back to school fairs, coffee mornings, parent groups like the Portuñol group at the high school, parent-teacher conferences, so much more. And you can see from the data the tangible resources that they provide in terms of carrot cards, monthly food markets, and MBTA cards for families. It's hard work, and they do a lot of it. What's much harder to describe and to quantify is the difference that they can make for families by being that trusted person in the school, or that they can help families try to work through any number of barriers, or how far a smile and the willingness to listen can go in changing the course of someone's day. They have a deep professional knowledge of local resources and the best referrals to make. We meet weekly to update around resources and upcoming events or opportunities, and often they are able to provide the much needed capacity in terms of time, technology, and language that can really get to the heart of equity. So when you see that 568 families were served with carrot cards, and that really is a truly wonderful number and a truly wonderful support, it may be that in registering a family for a carrot card, a liaison was able to talk a little bit more with that family about understanding some of the other needs, maybe connect them with the Office of Basic Needs and Housing Support, or connect them with a childcare voucher or an out-of-school time program. And the family could be on a whole new track. One need that the liaisons have identified is the need for consistency and sustainability of the resources that support families currently, such as the MBTA cards and the carrot cards. They also wondered about protocol for asking for donations from local businesses and wondered if there was anything that could provide some clarity about that. Next slide, please. Backing up every single piece of the work that we do is our Multilingual Services Office. I'm thrilled to announce that Micaela Yang, who was our previous Spanish interpreter translator, has accepted the position of Multilingual Service Coordinator. It was the position that was previously held by Maura Mendoza. Micaela unfortunately can't be here this evening because she's unwell, but we hope that you get to meet her soon. She has some really great ideas for the office moving forward. She's been providing Spanish language translation and interpretation since 2017 and is pictured here with her colleagues Elaine Metzger and Angie Surpris, who are the Haitian Creole interpreter and the Portuguese interpreter. The office provides language support for the entire school district with the exception of the SPED department. They enable better communication between families and schools in support of students' academic and overall success. We provide interpreters for parent-teacher conferences, district-wide events, phone calls with nurses, counselor, admin, educators, and they translate a huge variety of documents ranging from school assignments to district-wide communications to handbooks to flyers. This year, we've begun to see some different needs emerging. An overall increase in demand has included slightly fewer parent-teacher conferences, but there's been an increase in 504 meetings, particularly at high school level. We've seen changes in the languages that are requested. Spanish used to be clearly the top language request, but requests for Portuguese have also risen to a similar level. We've seen a slight decrease in the need for Haitian Creole and an increase in Arabic, particularly in terms of the need for direct communication with families, and particularly at the Healy. In response to the growing demand, we developed a new automated request form this year that's allowed us to increase efficiency and the volume of services and also track our data better. However, we're still trying to level our capacity to match the increase in demand. We have a pool of contracted interpreters, and we also rely on an outside agency for support, but we've seen a lot of turnover in our pool, and it is a challenge to build a pipeline of new interpreters. We just today hit submit on a grant for $35,000 through DESE to support us with this. Huge thanks to Anna Nieto again for shepherding through this process, and we hope that if we're awarded this grant, it will increase both the number and quality of interpreters in our pool so that we can really meet the growing demand for our services. I'm going to hand over now to Tina Liu, our Data Communications and Resource Coordinator, and the brains and amazing talent behind so much of our work. Every time we mention a new online system or you see informational posters and flyers about our programs throughout the city, it's all thanks to Tina's incredible skill and the ability to drill down on what is needed and how can we do it better. She's going to first talk about the volunteer program and then about some of the communications work.
Hi, good evening. First, I want to start with the volunteer program. So let's take a look at some of the places where volunteers were placed in the schools through Jen Capuano, who is our district volunteer coordinator. We launched a new online request form, as Ruth has referenced, for teachers, both in the pre-K to K-8 level, as well as at the high school, and this has helped to optimize the request and matchmaking process. This led to an increase in volunteer spots, although some schools are still placing more requests than others, with the high school being in the lead here. We can see that here there are 183 total weekly volunteers going out to schools in a variety of capacities, and there's still more volunteers who are registered than we can match. On top of specific mentoring and tutoring opportunities, such as in math and science and other programs, Jen is also placing volunteers in after-school and club settings. And of course, there are the ever-popular dog teams. If you have not had a chance to witness the dogs in action, they are a wonderful emotional support, social emotional support for the students across our schools. We have 180 therapy dog team visits this past year to date, and 9 different therapy dog teams going out to our schools. Lastly, I want to highlight a quote at the bottom. It says here, "I have some great news. The student has passed MCAS math. I can't thank the volunteer enough for all the help and time she gave." And this is from a Next Wave Full Circle educator sharing about the success that a volunteer has offered the student to be able to pass the MCAS. And so this has gotten us to think about ways in which we can explore how the volunteer program can connect to student learning and well-being as a next step for us. And that's it for the volunteer program. So next slide. So in my role as the Communications, Data, and Resources Coordinator, it's really about building internal capacity. And so some of the ways in which I have been doing that with the team this past year, as you've heard already, is building out some of the registration forms for the Early Beginnings team, additionally with the Multilingual Services team and the volunteer team, and building out the requests such that staff can have an easier way to connect with the services that we can offer. Additionally, I've also been partnering with community partners as well as city departments and within our own departments around how to share out resources more effectively and more visually appealing ways, such that families, especially if language is a barrier, can easily get that information more readily. On the bottom, we have also been working a lot this year on developing the internal capacity of our staff beyond SFLC, such as offering the new interpreters workshop led by Maura back in the fall so that we can train up more interpreters. Jen Ochoa and Regina Bertoldo also led a supporting homeless students workshop training in which many educators across the district were also able to attend to understand how to support homeless students. Lastly, we also have staff members who have led affinity groups for educators of Asian descent as well as for Portuguese speakers, such that we can have spaces of belonging for those educators. In the coming year, we hope to offer more professional development for staff beyond SFLC, such as family engagement and language access PD for other staff members. And now I'm going to transition back to Ruth.
So this is our last slide for the general SFLC programs, and then we will be handing over to Regina and Jen. I'm highlighting the things on this slide as some of the places where it takes a village and where SFLC provides this village. Everyone from early childhood liaisons to enrollment staff are involved in these activities, as well as many of our amazing community partners. Everyone on our team refers families to English classes. Everyone supports logistics and outreach for workshops and large events. Anna Nieto is working hard with the early childhood team, hand in hand with Kathleen Baylor's team and the liaisons on ways to support transitions into the public school, including this amazing new booklet you can see on the end there. And the support from the whole team around Dr. Carmona's entry plan meant that an accurate diversity of family voices will be informing his strategic plan. Most recently, Regina Bertoldo, Jen Ochoa, and I have been working to roll out the Guaranteed Basic Income pilot with ARPA, UMass Boston, and the Office of Housing Stability. And the liaison team and the early childhood folks stepped in to support making some long and complicated calls to families that they had already built trust with. 70 SFLC families will be receiving GBI starting in July, and that kind of work definitely takes a village. So my hat's off to our entire SFLC team. The best way to make things happen is together, and that's the way that SFLC chooses to work. And I'll hand over to Regina in just a moment, but we can take a little break if anyone has any questions.
Sure. Thank you for that presentation. Mr. Green?
Sure. I actually have a bunch of questions. First of all, thank you. SFLC is, quite possibly one of the special things about SPS, and really, really valuable to achieving all of our goals. And for the 9 years that I've been here, we've seen steady investment and steady growth in SFLC, as evidenced by all of the numbers and all of the outputs we're seeing here. But as staffing is so paramount, I'm going to ask, when we're seeing these increased numbers, are we also seeing increased staff burnout? Are we also seeing wait times? I think about the roughly 780 people who got some sort of help getting enrolled from SFLC. What was their average wait time? Are there things is that a place where we can be investing more money to see better customer service for parents? So I really would love to get deeper under the outputs and really see what it's taking us to do that and what it would take us to do better.
That's a really great question. Our staff definitely work hard. We work long hours. We are where we need to be. Working with families requires evenings and weekends because that's when families are available, and we are there for them. We have the skills available, and mostly we're able to keep up with the work, and then there are areas where capacity can sometimes plateau, let's say. One of the areas I would love to grow is the English classes for parents, and Jocelyn and I have been talking about how to do that in partnership in coming years. So I think there are ways for us to work collaboratively with existing resources in order to grow, and then there are also some gaps that come up.
Mr. Green?
Thank you. So this is more just straightforward praise that I think people lose sight of. I want to go back to the lockdown period when, in conjunction with nutrition services and the like, the family liaison at SFLC were serving about 1,200 families a week and getting food out. And they were our first line with families. And I don't know that I feel like we've given enough credit to the work SFLC did during the... That was all. I didn't have a question for that. I just wanted to make sure people who didn't know knew.
Thank you very much. And so when you ask about burnout, compared to what we were doing then, it's a breeze.
Fair enough.
Dr. Ackman, and then Ms. Patel.
Thank you. Through the chair, I echo my colleagues' sentiment, my deep appreciation. When Nomi was running and I mentioned I was raised by we called them parent liaisons then, not family liaisons, and it's just such great work, and you're doing it to just a model level. And I know you know that, and I hope you feel our deep appreciation. I think this is through the chair to the chair of rules. think what I heard you say was that you want to find out if there's a protocol for seeking donations from local businesses. So I'm wondering if we do, I want to make sure that that doesn't fall off the radar, and if we don't have a policy on that, if that's something that we can draft one on. I think you asked for that.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much.
Seems reasonable. Did you, yeah, okay. Ms. Patone?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for so much of your staff coming out. It's really powerful for me to see the faces to the names of all the people that have been doing this incredible work, so I really appreciate it. I know it's a late evening for everyone. I had a question about when you were talking about the family community liaisons, the need of consistency and stability of resources that help stabilize families. I'm sure a lot of this is through other partners other than the district, but is there anything that in terms of the sphere of influence of the school committee and the district that can be more specific around what you're looking for? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think they were talking directly to programs that have been grant funded or ARPA funded, and that have been counted on so strongly for families over the last year or two that they've almost become institutional. They are wonderful programs in support of families. They're also a really great way for liaisons to get to know families and to, as I said, to identify additional needs through that conversation of connecting someone with a carrot card or an MBTA card. The MBTA cards in particular have been invaluable for families, so I think we're hoping for some of those to be able to continue. Mr. John?
Thank you, Chair, through you. The first thing I'd just like to request is for one of your therapy dog teams to come and join us here. I feel that would be a valuable learning opportunity for us. But I also just want to recognize the work that I didn't know happened in your organization around matching volunteers with students and needs in the district. I'm looking out into the audience and I see the incomparable Carrie Normand is joining us here tonight. She, I was inspired by her to volunteer in our schools early on. I saw her doing it on top of everything else she dedicated to our students. And I think the more people know that this is an option, that you can, and the enrichment that you get from working directly with students, a lot of us parents don't see into the schools beyond the windows or, kind of coming into the main office for a moment. Working with students individually is a tremendous opportunity, and thank you for helping to match it and to do it more efficiently. I think it's great, so thank you.
Thank you. That's the work of the incomparable Jen Capuano, who's been doing this for a really long time. She's amazing at what she does, and has people coming. If I wander along the hallway to visit her, there's always someone with amazing talent and skills sitting at her office asking about being a volunteer. She does a really good job. She's always looking for more requests from teachers. So when you're speaking with teachers, please go ahead and remind them that we have such great volunteers here in Somerville. Sometimes I think people have been burnt in the past or have some fear of moving forward, and I don't think that's the case with the people that we're working with here, so thank you.
So following up on that, I think you mentioned that you have more volunteers lined up than you have teachers who want to use them. So are there any strategies around how to get more teachers interested in that?
Yes, we've been trying to work with teachers that have had positive experiences. Each of the schools has a volunteer coordinator, a stipended volunteer coordinator, and they can gather sort of good feedback and share it with people at school meetings. I think putting a presentation together and going in with some of these successes, I think would be one of the best ways to do it. So I think we could probably work a little bit more on that next year.
Great. I have Ms. Patone and then Mr. Green.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on the resource question. So you mentioned the MBTA passes, you mentioned the carrot cards. I think as a school committee member, I certainly want to be in a position to make sure that whatever we can do to make sure that these type of programs can continue if the grants are ended or as funds disappear. And I think I'd want to hear from the district at some follow-up in terms of what are the plans to create sustainability for this type of program in the long run, or whether or not it's in our purview or if it has to come from the city. Make sense? So I'd love a follow-up on that. Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Sure. I think this is through you to either the superintendent or associate superintendent Boston Davis. First, I want to say how great it is to see SFLC has someone who's dedicated to data and communications. These are both areas that have been an increasing priority to the district for years now, so I'm glad to see that in the org chart. But I also know, having professional experience in both areas, how easy it is, if we're not careful, to start creating data silos and have uncoordinated communications. And so as we dive into these areas with more depth and as we hopefully continue to build up that capacity as a district, I'm curious to know, like for the data particularly, what are we doing to make sure that like the data person at FLC is using the same language, the same tools as Sam Ellergene and her team and whatever other data people may be in the district, so that we have a coordinated data strategy and coordinated data systems so that we're actually all knowing what we all know.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the question. And I echo what everyone said. Thank you to the SFLC team for being here. I can give a brief response. Tina actually might know more than I do in this regard around the collaboration, but Sam Ellergene and I have a every other week check-in in which we go through kind of her priorities, her work streams, the things, and often, particularly around the entry plan, she has named her regular collaboration with Tina. So I know that there's a number of other work streams, the Conditions for Learning survey, for example, in which Sam has reached out to the SFLC team, but it seems like she communicates a great deal with Tina in that regard. So I think they are collaborative partners in that way, but I don't want to speak kind of on your behalf, Tina, but I'm happy to share more if that's helpful.
And through you,
nods from Tina.
Tina, yes, Tina does work very closely. You're welcome to come and talk if you want about your work with Sam. Yeah.
Yes, in response to that question, I think this is a fairly new role. I've only been in this role for a year and a half, and so the first part of the year last year was just figuring out what it is, and so this year really settling into more of a rhythm. In terms of the data piece and the communication piece, I do work very closely with Ruth Ronan, Jackie Peaks in the communications office, oftentimes sharing information around what we are seeing and then what we can do for them to push out information to families. On the data side, I think more recently it has been through the superintendent entry plan, really working closely with her on the data, looking at it, making sure that it's a very diverse representation of families that are reflected in the data.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
Just as a quick follow-up, and this is through you to the superintendent, I asked because I figured these are all fairly new initiatives and fairly new roles, and so I want to make sure that as we are building them and as we are figuring out these things, that we are providing the support and the structure now so that 5 years from now we don't look back and go, oh, we probably should have had that coordinated from the beginning, because it'll be easier to do everything we need to do now than in 5 years.
Great. Seeing no further questions, shall we bring up Mr. Green?
So this isn't so much a question, this is a parting thought. Because she's here, I thought it would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that at least part of the inspiration for the dog visits is Winter Hill's own Bonnie. So thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand over now to Director Regina Bertoldo from the Office of Basic Needs and Housing Support Services.
Good evening, everybody. Good to be here. And talking about exciting work that's happening at the Basic Needs and Housing Support Services. First of all, with our on our history, I really want to thank former Superintendent Mary Skipper for believing on this vision, supporting this vision of an office, of an innovative office within a public school district. And I have to tell you, we are the only ones in the state with this kind of office. And to say that housing wraparound services to families do have a place in public schools, and we're seeing this model growing more and more in the country. So the goal and the objectives of this office was to mitigate the impact of homelessness and social barriers on students' success by providing support systems that enable them to stay in school, providing housing assistance, basic needs, and really empowering families through this process and accompany youth as well. All that while we comply with the McKinney-Vento Act and foster regulations, because that's what this office has the compliance of. We had no idea when we started about, we call ourselves as Basic Needs and Housing Support Services, but we work with education, right? So it was a lot of learning around housing and how it works, and to be able to then collaborate in working in this mixed delivered systems. So we opened in February of last year. Jen will come after. So I started in February while doing the double role of the enrollment office, and Teresa then was hired in March of 2022. And then in August 2022, Jennifer Ushoa came as the bilingual social worker to the office. So our numbers in last year, it's what we have. And interesting that we were working with homeless and foster students, but then was that those families that had so much need hanging by the skin of their teeth, but they were not homeless, right? So then what we did, we created this families at risk list, and that's our third caseload. And with these families, we were able to do a lot of prevention work, which helped us to bring the numbers a little down this year, but that's debatable. We lost families last year. Families moved, but we also were able to retain some of the families by providing measures, helping them with utility assistance, more food resources, helping families with rental assistance, connecting them with rental assistance organizations in the city. So the numbers this year are a little lower, which doesn't mean, have we identified everyone who's homeless? No. Are we identifying everyone who's at risk? No. But we are growing, right? So the schools, we are providing professional development. Jen and I started our second series, 6 hours course, understanding the McKinney-Vento regulations and how to work and support homeless students. And what we see now is that schools immediately connect with us when students bring in their hardship at home, especially older students. They connect with us, counselors, and we immediately work to surround the family with the supports that we know exist and where to find. We, as Ruth mentioned, we have 70 families from our caseload that qualifies for the basic guaranteed basic income pilot. We are doing the pre-registration ourselves, and then next week we start with enrollment process for these families. An additional 11 unaccompanied youth will also be receiving the guaranteed basic income. These are 18 and older students. And we have 25 families supported through the municipal voucher program. Families that were housed in Somerville, subsidized homes for many years to come. And this is unbelievable. This has been so successful, and we want to thank our partnership with Office of Housing Stability, with Somerville Homeless Coalition, with GAS, with Summer Viva, with the mayor's office. It has been so much collaboration that with programs like this, we have been able to go deep and pick up families out of poverty. And the sustainability of these programs is so important that we continue to replicate such models. We've developed partnerships on the course of this almost 2 years. Cradles to Crayons has been incredible in providing us. Jen will talk a little bit more about our partners after. Ballpen Project to helped us purchase $500 worth of laundry cards. Laundry is very expensive for families. We have Volunteers Adventures. They making desks, wood desks, and they are workshops, and they donating to our families. When they get housing, our students are getting handmade wood desks for their room. Connection, we couldn't talk more about our partnership with Connection. Pastor Jordan Harris always opens the door. It's a place in the community where we can count on. We've got ourselves into policy and advocacy all across the state. We are part of several groups, local and in the state. I'm not gonna list them all, but it varies from the new arrival working group to Mass Coalition for the Homeless and other groups. We have meetings, several meetings during the week. Next slide, please. And this is the graph. And I have to say, isn't this a beautiful presentation? This is thanks to Tina. This is amazing. It's a beautiful, and the graphs is also Tina. So this shows the trends on the numbers that we saw there. The blue is last year, the green is this year. This number, I have to say, are very fluid. They change every day. So the numbers that we put together last year, the numbers on homeless, it's going to go up because we do have new families that were identified. Next slide, please. This is great data. This is students who left in our caseload last year. Out of 33 students, 8 were placed in Somerville, and everyone else left, and it's listed what districts they moved to. Chelsea inherited a lot of our students last year. It seems like it was a community that, that were attracting many of our families where they could find larger spaces so families could live together. So out of those 32, only 8 found subsidized housing in Somerville. And 9 families 9 students were placed in the shelter system, and that was in Shrewsbury, Quincy, Springfield. Hyannis is too far for us to transport and bring them back to Somerville every day. And then the beauty of this year is that how many kids we are housing in Somerville. So far, we have 1 who moved to permanent housing to Boston, and the others are all getting housed here in Somerville, and that's thanks to the MVP and to CHUMP workshops that it's being coordinated by the Office of Housing Stability, and other languages, and Spanish and Portuguese families come, and we help them fill out the CHUMP application is the common housing application for Massachusetts programs, whose families qualify for state housing. Next of that, after some of these workshops took place, and the MVP, some of these families are already placed in permanent housing. The success is the dedicated work for this specific population, showing that when there is dedicated work, it works, families stay here, and students are much more successful in school because of the stability. The development of cross-sector collaboration and partnerships, which an example was the MVP and the GBI. We increased the transportation capacity for our kids transported. We have a larger list of vendors and small business and minority business, so we can be more efficient in kids coming to school on time and be picked up on time. We're doing district-wide PD. Between Jen and I, we also go to school-based SST meetings in several schools. We have not gone through the whole system yet because it's only 2 of us, but many of our kids are brought up into SST discussions, and we go to the meeting because we believe that we bridge the gap between home and the academic system. So we sit on those SST meetings. Action steps address barriers for efficiency. So all this involves a lot of forms, filling out forms, and finding out different programs so we can expose families, and that takes a lot of hours. For the municipal voucher program, we filled out all the applications for the families we identified. So that is capacity, and continue to innovate, because this is a very innovative program. Do I bring in Jen now?
Yeah, I can go to wrap it up.
And Jen will wrap it up to show our partners and who also help this work to make this work possible.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Jennifer Ochoa, and I'm the social worker of Basic Needs and Housing Support Services and a former proud East Somerville Community School liaison. So as you guys can see here on the screen, this is just a short list of all the collaborators that we have both across the city, within the public schools, and in the community. The Somerville Family Learning Collaborative would not be able to do this without our incredible partners. The word collaboration is heavily embedded in our work and overall mission, and our partnerships extend across multiple disciplines to ensure we're able to support the whole family. We are grateful for all of our partners and wanted to highlight some who have worked very closely with us this year. As Fernanda mentioned earlier, we want to give a special thanks to Elizabeth Peabody House, Early Head Start, and the Growing Center for their generosity regarding space to support our play groups. Cradles to Crayons, who continue to support our ever-growing need for quality clothing for our students and diapers. Connections Church for always opening their doors for space usage, which allows us to be closer to our community members in East Somerville, and Summer Promise for their continuous partnership. And we want to thank you for your time this evening, and we can open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I will open it up to questions from my colleagues, Dr. Phillips, and then Mr. Green.
Thanks, Regina. It's so nice to have you back in front of us. SFLC, it's amazing to see you as always. You know, I think all of us up here know that when kids' basic needs are met, it's a lot easier to learn, and so we are so grateful for the work that you are doing. There's lots of ways to make sure kids' needs are met, and we're doing it here through interagency collaboration, which is really hard, right? I think lots of times we put in way more time setting things up than making things happen. But you guys don't. You're making a lot happen with a lot of different partners, and I'm wondering, what are you doing right that the rest of us can learn from? Like, how is it that we have such strong partnerships here, really making a difference on the ground for our kids?
So if I understood that right, I'm not afraid of asking, right? And it's asking, and it's identifying needs and building that collaboration. I think this program, all our programs, is so it's so innovative that whomever wants to support. And every time we hear about someone who could help, right? It spreads the word, and when you notice, you have people offering to help. And I have an example: the Seven Hills Presbyterian Church. They heard we needed the Cradles to Crayon provide us with coats, and we have deliveries twice a year of tons and tons of clothes. But it's very hard to high school age, right, to get coats at that size. So the Presbyterian Church in December did a collection at the church, and they purchased 2,300 and gift cards for Target, for Amazon, for Costco, and they gave us all the cards that was to be purchased in coats for the kids, especially when they go on sale. So it was purchased for next year. And they heard about the program and about the need. Fadil African Hair Braiding in Lower Broadway said, I can get 5 adults that we could do hair braiding for the holidays in December. So high school students, they were like, oh, we are up for it. So it was about 6 high school students who went. And with that, we are so thankful. And I'm just using some example. The Kiwanis clubs give us beautiful backpacks for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So this collaboration is going on for 5 years now. They approach it. So I think City Line Laundry, I met with the owner and I said, there is a huge need for cards. Laundry is very expensive. He said, I have another laundromat in Brockton, and I opened to the community. And he said, here I try because they are in Lower Somerville. And he said, but it's really difficult. I said, if I find funds, right, how do we go about it? He said, whatever funds you find, I'll match 50%. So we got 500, he gave 250, so we purchased 750 in laundromat cards, $15 cards that we give to the families or we share with families. So it's really, I think it's relationship, it's connecting, and then somebody else will go and say, listen, I have this organization that we've been supporting. And because we're supporting students in the public schools, it seems like people have a desire for that. What is the goal? The goal is to keep kids in school. The goal is to provide them with whatever it takes for their stability and have them having a good day at school, regardless of what life they will have after they leave school.
Mr. Green?
Did I answer?
Mr. Green, and then Dr. Ekman, and then Mr. Patel.
So, if you'll forgive me in advance, I'm going to blow up your spot a little bit. You came up and you started by thanking former Superintendent Skipper for her trust. I want to point out that they don't have this program in Boston, and they don't have that program in Boston because you sold yourself short. Yes, Mary Skipper signed off on it, but you advocated like crazy for this, and as you've always advocated for our students. I am terrified of the day you move on because we'll take 10 people to replace you. And because of that, because I know how hard you work and how much all of this, these partnerships don't just happen, they happen because you are ever present. I'm gonna ask you a hard question because I know you're up for it. Namely, like it is on one level really great to see that of the 58 homeless students identified this year, we found in Somerville permanent placement for 38 of them. That is fantastic. And it speaks to the efficacy of the MVP. It also speaks to the deeper truth that homelessness in America is a policy choice. The challenge is that MVP is funded primarily by our RF funds, which expire at the end of this year. I'm confident, because I know you so well, that you've given some thought as to what happens after December 31st. I'd just love to know your initial thoughts and how we can be prepared to handle that coming cliff.
So for the MVP, I think it's that are funds for 3 or 4 years because the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, don't quote me on that, will pick up after the ARPA fund. Ellen, Ellen Schachter, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but the goal is for 3 to 4 years to have this subsidies, and they will be recertified every year. Families do pay, it's not 100% subsidized. The families do pay a percentage of their income towards rent and towards utilities. So for now, it's 3 to 4 years.
Excellent, thank you.
I have Dr. Ekman and then Mr. Viton.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your work. This was inspirational, and I just wanted to sort of mention from my day job perspective that like the impact of wraparound services is something that, while DESE doesn't do an amazing job of supporting, it's something they look for when there are district reviews, and obviously we will, whenever it happens, be a shining example that hopefully they will be wise enough to show to the rest of the state. I also want to thank you specifically. I saw in noting the need of foster students, that you're doing specific advocacy to improve or to get the word out about being a foster parent. And thank you for showing us the data on the families that, I forget your term, but that were on the margins that you
At risk.
At risk, the at-risk families, because, again, this is like, you haven't talked explicitly, I think, about being data-driven, but there's so much data on, like, if you can keep that, keep these people not falling in to worse circumstances, like how much of magnitude their outcomes are likely to be. And so, thank you for the great strategy. I mean, I think I appreciate the amazing work that you do, but I just wanted to note a few of those. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And on the foster, I don't want to take credit for the foster. We work together, right, and with Cambridge Public Schools as well. I think the superintendent was approached about the lower number of foster families in Somerville and the amount of foster kids in need of local foster care, because then we transport them, right? And we are responsible 100% for the cost. It's not like homeless that you split with the other district. Foster, you are responsible 100% of the transportation. So we got together with DCF, and then we tried once. We didn't have many people signed in, and then I think it was Ruth who said, let's go together with Cambridge Public Schools. So it was Tina, Ruth, and I meeting with them, and we had the meeting last week, which we did have. Ruth and I, we were at the meeting, and the foster point of contact from Cambridge was there. I was there, was able to give a testimony of how important it would be for the students to be fostered, have foster homes in Somerville to keep their stability as well.
Mr. Beaton?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, through you. I want to reinforce what my colleague, Dr. Ackman, mentioned around especially the at-risk students. I noticed, and you said in your presentation, that this number bumps around and it's a snapshot, maybe a moment in time, but there was a decline from last year's numbers from, it says 83 to 55. That's where we're at this snapshot. I'm wondering, how representative do you believe that number really is? I can only imagine that identifying students and families who are at risk of basic needs or housing support is a hard job, and just as much qualitative perhaps as it might be quantitative. I doubt there's a specific number you're looking at to identify a student as being at risk. So I guess I'm asking for some kind of confidence range, or how much confidence do you put in these numbers for at-risk students? Thank you.
Yeah, so it could be double the number, right? So this is not by us talking to families, but we got referral from the schools. And I keep forgetting to say through you, Chair. I will never learn. So we get referrals through the liaisons, the school liaisons. So it's a partnership, and with our workshops, and a lot of educators are taking our PDs. The goal is to help schools to help us identify more families. Absolutely, no, it's not representative, right? And then there is always the question of doubled up, which the state is revisiting. Doubled up and what really means. Doubled up is one of the criteria of being homeless. Yeah. No, I have to be honest and to say it's underrepresented because we only know what we know. Also, it's, there is a stigma. You don't want to declare that you were, poverty has its stigma. You don't want to say you're living, in a closet inside of a room. You don't want to say we've found families living in horrible conditions here in Somerville. Yeah, that number could be much higher.
Okay, with that, I think that completes our SFLC questions and presentations. Thank you so much.
Thank
you very much. I'm going to have Ms. Martic join us as well. It's another example of the amazing work that happens for access for our students.
Thank you. Good evening, school committee. It is my pleasure to be here today to share with you some of the work that we have been has been taking place at scale this year. Like Dr. Carmona mentioned earlier, I started in late August, and there's been a lot of work around making sure, that scale is meeting the needs of not only the existing student, but also increasing the number of adult learners that we support. So here's my presentation. Next slide, please, Erica. So next slide, just basically. So I think some of you might be familiar with what the mission is of SCALE, but our mission is really to empower adults who are 16 years and older. A lot of the time people think it's 18, but we actually accept 16-year-olds to be able to have access to data-informed literacy. Some noise, sorry, instruction, a challenging learning environment, and support and high expectations for student engagement. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to provide the school committee with a picture of what our student body looks like right now. So we have served so far this year 445 students. 395 are currently enrolled in our program. Just so you know, we initially started with funding for 135 seats for our ELL classes and 120 for our AB classes, and we were able to increase the number and the funding mid-year because we were serving so many students, higher than the number that we were expected to. Our student ages ranges pretty much from 16 to 72 years old. One of the things that I'm very proud about when I started at SCALE, the number of young people that were enrolled in our program was very low. It was around 20 in the entire program. And we have programming in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening. And as of this week, we have 129 students ages 16 to 24. And I think that is a testament to the relationship building that we have been doing with the high school staff, with the Full Circle staff, with the Goals program, and really working even with other high schools in surrounding towns, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but because we receive funding from DESE ACLS, we are required to serve anyone from any city in Massachusetts. So therefore, we are getting referrals from Medford, from Malden, from other places. But one of the things that I changed to this year is that I wanted to prioritize Somerville residents. That was another area that I felt was really important. We are part of the Somerville Public Schools. We are in Somerville. We should be, giving priority to those residents that come from the city. So as you can see now, we have 179 Somerville residents among that 395. Our student body comes from 40 different countries. We have a very diverse population of students. Many of them are recent arrivals. One of the things that I added to our inquiry form is the question, how long you have been in the U.S., because we're trying to see, we're working together with the Office of Immigrant for the city of Somerville, and it's an information that they were interested in learning about, so we're able to share that information with them. Like I mentioned earlier, we service multiple communities in Massachusetts. We have both males and females, and we have a wide range of educational background. Especially in our ELL classes, we have people who have doctorate degrees, who are lawyers, who have, engineers from the country of origin, but they come to SCALE because they need to learn English when they immigrated to this country. And one of the services that we're able to do now is helping them with the evaluation process for their credentials. That's one area. I don't think I added to the presentation, but we are now working with students, having them bring in their paperwork and being able to translate it and then submit it for evaluation, and helping students kind of get into the career field that they major in the country of origin. So next slide, Erica. Our staff, we have 11 full-time staff, 2 of them were added this year as a result of the extra funding that we received from DESE. 18 of our staff are part-time, so the majority of our teachers are part-time. We have a very diverse background. Our countries representing our staff body are from Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Indonesia, Lebanon, and the U.S. And that's one area that I think that I wanted to increase as well, the diversity among staff, because we're serving so many people from different countries. It's nice for them to see the staff that represents them as well. And our staff have a very educational background. Most of them are retired K-12 educators. But I have been able to bring on board some adult basic education, staff with that kind of experience. Okay, next. So what are our sources of funding? A major funding source is DESE ACLS, which is the Adult Community Learning Services. It's the arm of DESE that funds all adult basic education program in Massachusetts. And our original funding was $718,000 at the beginning of the year, and that increased to $832 mid-year. We also received funding from Somerville Public Schools to pay for some of our staffing. We also received funding from the Job Creation and Retention Trust from the City of Somerville, and I'm going to mention later some of the programming that we're able to do with those grants. We received City of Somerville ARPA funding this year as well. They're giving us funding to replace the computers in the computer lab as well as in our test center. They were very old. And our students, part of their requirement for adult education is that they have access to digital literacy classes, and obviously not having inconsistent Wi-Fi and all computers poses a problem, right? And last but not least, we recently got a grant from Mass Hire. It's also from the City of Somerville ARPA funds, and it's to provide ELL classes to people that work in small businesses in Somerville. So it's 2 classes. We're going to be starting that in the next couple of weeks. And we're very excited that we're able to collaborate with Mass Hire Metro North Workforce Board to be able to get this funding and serve the needs in the community. Next slide. So this is pretty much what we currently offer. When I started, we had ELL classes level 1 through 4. Initially, we had 8 classes, 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. We had never offered PM classes, and we were able to, with the extra funding, we were able to add a level 1 class, which is where the biggest needs are of the people on our wait list. And that class, instead of meeting 3 days a week like the other classes, meets 5 days a week. So it's a very intense class, and we're seeing a lot of good results in it. We added a PM class Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 3, a level 1 as well. And the latest class that we added is we started working initially with Ruth, right? We're trying to add a family literacy program in one of the schools. And then Alcimara in the Healy School reached out to me, and we started working on how we could serve the needs of the parents in the Healy. So we were able to establish a family literacy ESOL program at the Healy. It started last week. We have 17 parents enrolled. Yes. 8 are Portuguese parents and 8 speak Spanish. And the great thing about this family literacy program is that the parents get to bring the kids with them. So while the parents are learning English, the children are working with 2 paras and working on academic support, doing literacy activities, and once a month, both parents and children get together and they work on literacy activities. And the curriculum is really special for the parents, because we are teaching them English, but also helping them learn to navigate the U.S. system, the Somerville Public School educational system. So that's the kind of lessons that they will be getting, like how to talk to your child's teacher, how to make appointments, who are the staff members in the schools, and really providing that important information for newly arrived families so they'll be able to navigate that. And I already mentioned the Somerville small business thing. I'm sorry, can you go back in? And then for ABE, which is Adult Basic Education Program, that is the classes that prepares people to pass the high school equivalency diploma. So we had classes in the morning, 3 reading and writing classes and 1 math, and the same, very similar at night. Then this later in January, we were able to add an advanced reading and writing class, and that is for people who finished the high school equivalency, but they need more support to be able to go into college or go into a training. So that class was added 2 mornings a week. And we also have an adult diploma program, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with that, but we are one of 5 ADP programs funded by DESE in the entire state. So primarily we work with the GOALS program by helping the GOALS students who are mostly, students that come in with limited interrupted instruction in the country of origin, and they might be a little older, so they might not be ready to get their high school diploma because it's going to take them a while to do all that. So with the ADPs, another pathway to get an adult diploma. So they work with the GOALS class program, they pass the MCAS, and then they work with us in completing 5 tasks. And when they complete the 5 tasks, it's presented to you guys, and you approve it, and they get an adult diploma. And right now, we are working with about 5 students that we are hopeful will be able to graduate this year, and so you'll be seeing their information shortly. And another program that I started in January is a paraeducator training program. It's a program that I started in my previous job that was very successful. We had 6 cohorts, 6 years of students, over 100 graduated from the program, and many of them are now teaching, and they're all, immigrants from different countries. So I'm very proud of the group that we were able to recruit here. Out of the 18 that are enrolled, 14 are Somerville residents. They come from different countries, and I think I shared some of the countries, 11 different countries, so they speak multiple languages. Some of them are parents of kids in the district, and they're very excited for the opportunity to be able to have access to employment in the schools where their children go to, and they're looking forward to getting that done in the next month or so. Another program that I started because we saw a need is a Spanish HSC program. We have a lot of parents who speak Spanish who were coming in for ELL classes, but when we were asking them about their educational background, we were learning that they had, 5th grade education or 6th grade education. So we said, why don't we try a pilot and see, right? We started this in November. We have 35 students involved right now in the Spanish HSC, and every day we get 1, 2, 3 people asking, and the class size is supposed to be 15, so you can imagine how the teachers love me right now because they have 30 people sitting in their class, but they're so interested in helping students that they don't mind that their classroom is so packed. And so the other thing that we added is the digital literacy classes, and that we actually work with the Somerville Community Corporation to offer 3 cohorts of digital literacy and financial literacy to women that are residents of Somerville. We finished the first 2 cohorts, and now we're starting the 3rd one this week. And at the end of the training, they get a free computer, brand new for them to use, which is great. And also they're using North Star, so they're able to complete and get certifications that they can put in the resume. And the High School Equivalency Test Center in Massachusetts, for the last few years, we have availability for providing HiSET as well as GED testing. Our test center scale was only offering HiSET. They had never gone through the process of getting the GED. So that was another area, and Chad, thank you, Chad, for helping me with that. We started in, I think it was October, and we finally last week received approval for GED testing, which is going to make a huge difference for our students because with the HiSET, for each of the tests, they have 3 tries per subject. However, with HiSET, once you use your 3 tries, you have to wait for the next year to start to be able to get 3 new tries. With GED, after 60-day wait period, then you have 3 more tries. So this is going to make a huge difference for our students that want to get this done, And the Student Leadership Council, one of the things that in adult education that is really, really important is we're working with adults, right? We're not working with children, adults who bring a lot of experiences from the country of origin, adults who really need to feel connected and develop a sense of belonging. So really creating a Student Leadership Council was very important to me, to the team, and it was amazing because over 12 students applied to run for office, for president, vice president, and we have our elected vice president, Roxana, here, who is going to join me in a few minutes to share a little bit of her experience at scale. So we were able to have elections, and the students were very interested, very engaged in the whole election process. And at the end, so we have a president, vice president, treasurer, and clerk, a secretary, and also some vocals. And right now, one of the things that we did with the Student Leadership Council was getting them involved in our ADEI training and initiative that we're working on. So that we're part of the team that went to the training, that worked with the staff to figure out what are some of the practices at scale that might be, hindering the progress or might not be seen as fair or equitable. And their voices were very engaging. I mean, when we went to the main, the last day where all the other programs were there, our president spoke in front of the crowd, and the staff from ACLS were very impressed with the level of engagement, knowledge, and commitment that our student, I mean, think about it. She's sitting here with me since 7 tonight when she had to go to work to be able to be here and support what we are doing. So I really, really feel blessed that our student leaders are involved and that they care so much about making the program better for they're leaving, but they want to make sure the program continues to evolve and do a good job. And with the JCRT grant, we're able to offer like 12 weeks classes, very specific. As you know, the JCRT grant is around getting people ready for careers and the workforce. So we offer a business and accounting and bookkeeping class that was very popular. At the end, the students were able to sit for the QuickBooks certification, which some of them were able to obtain, again, helping put that in their resume. We offer a patient experience class for those people who are interested in the health field, which is an area of need in this region, and an introduction to the IT landscape, another area of need. And we also offer a college and career readiness class for those students that were interested in enrolling in college after they finish with Scale. Next, Erica. So here's our high school equivalency test center. As I mentioned, for a while we were just offering the HiSET test, computer only. There is a paper option, but that was another process of getting approved. We did do it, so now we're able to offer paper testing for people, especially for those people who are not very comfortable on computers. It really makes a huge difference, right, to be able to do it in paper. And we now added the GED test center, the test, and the Para-Pro, now that we have the Para-Educator program, we wanted to make sure that our para students were able to take the test at our test center where they feel comfortable. So we got approved for that as well, so they'll be able to take the test in late May at our center. Next, Erica. And here's the Para-Educator training program. What we are doing is that we're taking this group of students and preparing them in reading, writing, and math, along with all these other topics. And the goal is that they pass the Para-Pro test, and they'll be able to become certified as a Para-Educator. And I don't know if you're aware, but the Para-Pro test is written at an associate's degree level. So, and most of our students are English language learners, so you can imagine we're trying to do this in a matter of months, get someone from this level to that level. And part of the things that we're doing, in addition to offering the classes to prepare them for the test, is we're working with the special education department, so they can come in and do trainings around intro to special ed. The multilingual department is going to do some trainings. We're getting a CPR training through the vocational department at the high school. We're adding the roles and responsibilities of para-educators, and I know as I speak with some of the principals, they think that there's a need for paras to get more training. So to be able to incorporate these pieces into the training, so when they leave, I feel they're going to be more ready to do this work than maybe others that are working in the district right now. Next. So these are some of the community partners that we have been working this year. The Somerville Foundation, we actually wrote a grant for Mass Hire to work with out-of-school youth. As I mentioned, one of my goals was to increase the number of youth in our program. So we applied for a grant, which you'll be hearing soon about that, and that is to serve out-of-school youth for 2 years with education, but also a lot of wraparound services, because we know they do need that support. Franklin Cummings, we have been working with them. They receive funding from the city of Somerville to offer scholarships to Somerville residents. So we have brought some of our students to the campus to visit, doing like IT Day and HVAC Day, so they can have like a hands-on experience and see what the campus is like. With Middlesex, we've been working with them to get our students into the transition to college program for those who are getting their high school equivalency. With Women's Money Matters, we started a relationship, and we were able to offer 2 financial literacy classes to women, one in the morning and one at night. And this was for Somerville residents, and they were able to get $100 for every session that they participated, and they got a computer at the end. So we were able to service 24 women through that. And the Somerville Community Corporation, we're doing the financial literacy, the job readiness, and the JCRT scholarships. We have been referring students that are in financial needs, so they can have access to the JCRT scholarship. We have a lot of our students struggling, with housing needs, with food needs, and we're able to connect them to that. And some of them have been able to receive a scholarship to support them with the payment. The Harbor Bridge program is another program that we work directly with around adult diploma program. And Harbor Bridge is a program the Harvard University created for their workers who work for there, like the janitors, the cafeteria workers. So they work with students that might want to do the adult diploma. So our ADP assessor meets with those students and help them, and they get, ADP from us. And I mentioned what we're doing with the Metro North Workforce Board and the Mass Hire Career Center. That's one of our main partners. We meet with them regularly. We discuss shared clients, and we take our students to visit the office for job fairs and to get some support with resume building and all of that. Next. So these are the partnerships that we have established within the SPS. Obviously, we work very closely with the Goals program. We meet almost weekly, making sure that the students in Goals are being successful, passing all the tasks, and being ready to graduate. With the Next Wave Full Circle, we have developed a really nice relationship with Dan and with the staff there. And when they have a student that is dropping out, they literally walk them to scale. We sit down together, we have conversations, and they're left in good hands, and the students, it's like a very seamless transition. With the Arthur Healy School, with the Family Literacy Program, and with the Center for Career and Technical Education, we have been meeting. We actually right now in the process of writing a grant, a workforce grant, to be able to offer CNA training and phlebotomy training in the evening for Scale students at the high school. So that grant is actually due next week. Next. And then these are some of the initiatives that we started at the school level. I mentioned the Anti-Racism, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Professional Learning Series. That was a 6-day of training that a group 10 of our staff and the 2 of our students joined us for that. And at the end, we had to look at a racial equity challenge that we want to address in the school and come up with what that looked like. And so as part of that, one of the things that the Student Leadership Council decided and we put it together is like a cultural celebration day, where each of the classes will be assigned a country that is representing our student body, and they're going to do research and present, the information about the country, what they learned in a cultural diversity celebration. I mentioned the Student Leadership Council already. We also created, with the help of Dr. Davis, Boston Davis, the instructional leadership team, and we've been meeting regularly to look at a program, in a continuous improvement lens, and making decisions about what we want to do. Next. This is our Student Leadership in Action. This is Tika on the right, who's our president of the Student Leadership Council, and on the left, this is the day that we were at the ADI training, some of the staff and our student leaders. Next. Pictures, I want to share with you pictures of the family literacy at the Healy School. This was the first day of class last week, while the kids were, in their own classroom, the parents were in the other class. Next. And what are we doing right now? What's in the works? The mass hire out of school youth. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that and serve more people. The Workforce Competitiveness Grant, which is the one that we're applying right now to offer the CNA and the phlebotomy training. And also, we are working with the principals to make sure that our paraeducators have access to an internship, some job shadowing experience, and also to apply. We already helped them create a talent HR account and start looking at the positions that came out for next year and helping them with that process. Next, Erica. So thank you. I know that it's been a long night, so. Any questions?
Thank you. That was a fabulous presentation, and it looks like we have several questions. I will start with Ms. Barish.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. First of all, I just want to say that the number of new programs and offerings is just spectacular. So thank you for just hitting the ground running, apparently. I mean, the paraprofessional training is so wonderful because we always need more amazing paraprofessionals. The fact that they're coming into, that they would be coming in multilingual is amazing. I love the grant that you're writing for the CNA training at the CTE program, or using the CTE facilities at the high school. I hope that that's something that could be expanded. I mean, we have such spectacular facilities. It would be really wonderful for more people to be able to take advantage of that.
That's our goal. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So I don't really have any questions. I'm just like, just want to say wow and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
So I could get really into the weeds on a lot of stuff I do. I work a lot on ABE and vocational training programs for my day job. And I want to get into the weeds with you at some point, but this isn't probably the venue for that. Yes. But I do want to, in particular, highlight, because I'm on the state advisory board for the Workforce Competitive Trust Fund, I want to highlight that programming as something the state needs more of. But it also, for me, raises a question. And I'm not asking a question, and I want to be clear, I don't actually want the numbers. I just want us to think about it as a district about how we do it. One of the real current limitations to WCTF funding is that it can only use it on students who currently have work authorization. I know that is a question we try to avoid asking here in Somerville correctly. But I would like people to think about, going forward, how we can better use Somerville resources to support residents who are in the process of getting work authorization, so that they don't have to wait till they get authorization, then do an 8-month training in order to get a job. And my other question related to how we can better spend resources is, my understanding is, and this is a two-part question. First, my understanding is that our ESOL training is primarily paid for out of DESE ABE dollars, correct?
Yes.
The challenge for those of you who don't know about DESE ABE dollars is, if someone leaves the program, quote unquote, early because, I don't know, they got a job, we can be punished when it comes to reapplying for more funds if we don't leave for that slot, if we're not 100% enrollment all year long. So one, I would like us as a district, and I can give us the details in future meetings, I know we're all tired and loopy, to think about advocating for changes to the ESOL program to allow for more funding, because it needs a lot more funding even than it has now, but B, more flexibility in terms of what constitutes success, and C, and perhaps most importantly, changing the curriculum and the goals so that rather than, basic functioning English, it's vocational English, it's English that helps people get jobs.
Right, yes, and thank you for bringing that point. Yes, for DESE, SCLS, just so you know, there are 3 things that we get evaluated on. We get evaluated on enrollment. So if they are giving us 300 seats, every month those 300 seats need to be filled. So that's what he was referring to, which I have to say we have done it. We actually go over 100% on ELL this year, and for ABE, which is always the hardest one, right, we've done 85%. And that is a number that DC was looking at by April 5th to make decisions about funding for next year. So I'm happy to say that we did meet that. The other piece is the educational functioning level. And what that means is that they expect students to go up a level if they're in a program for that year. And that is the challenge, I'll be honest with you, with scale that I'm trying to work on is really looking at the curriculum that is kind of scattered and making it more cohesive and that meets the needs of our students so they can show gains. Also looking at the assessment process and who's doing the assessment and how what are they doing to ensure that the students feel comfortable and that they're ready to take those tests and demonstrate what they learn. And last but not least, the other piece that they look at is for ABE, obviously how many people pass the credential. I have to tell you, we have 18 people so far who passed, which is higher than any of the last 5 years. That is the higher number so far, and we have about 10 or more that I'm hoping will make it to the finish line by June. So I think we're in good hands there. And the other piece is really helping students enter post-secondary ed workforce or training. And that is the issue, the challenge when we do have a lot of ELL students who don't have immigration status, right? But we serve them. We expected to serve them, and we want to serve them. And some of them are in that waiting period to see, it can take a while for them to get their papers but they're still, contributing, they're working, they're doing what they can, right? Roxana, come over here. I forgot to bring you over. Why don't you? Up to the.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roxana. I'm a resident of Somerville and have been a student in Somerville Public School for most of my life. I would like to share a little bit of my experience. In all my educational career has been easy, especially with getting the right support system. As I put my trust back into the educational system and started attending in Scale, I was able to find a very supportive and welcoming community. As now I have accomplished getting my high school diploma, and now being a student of their paraprofessional educator program. And I'm happy to say with their help, I'm now enrolled in Bunker Hill Community College for this fall of 2024. At Scale, I was able to be part of being in their college readiness class and now being the vice president of the Student Leadership Council in the first year that Scale has introduced. I have witnessed the opportunities that Scale has opened for the students, and I'm very thrilled to be part of the community and hope to see many more opportunities open up for our students in Scale. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me or Roxana? Yes.
Dr. Phillips and then Dr. Ackman.
We are so lucky to have you. Thank you for putting your mind, your heart, and your soul into Scale and to Somerville. This is a really basic question, but I am not clear where Scale sits in kind of the organization of our district. And you're building these great relationships with all our principals and department heads. Like, what are we doing at the district level to facilitate that?
Yes, well, we are located in the top building right in the basement, and we are definitely a school within SPS, and I'm very grateful for the support that I have received. I know the staff said, "Oh my God, we never received this many support before," so from the district. But I really am grateful. I think Dr. Boston Davis, Chad, and Dr. Carmona have visited Scale, have talked to the students. I mean, I showed them last week, you highlighted the program in your newsletter, so the district has really been very supportive of what we're doing. And I think, they'll continue to. The fact that we're even opening the doors for the high school, I know that was a conversation that has been going on for a while, and, Dr. Carmona said, let's try it. And so people in the city were ecstatic, because they were like, oh, we've been working on this for years, and finally it's going to happen. So we get a lot of support, I think, and as we grow, obviously we want to get more, right? Because we are making a difference. Yeah. Dr. Davis, you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I wanted to respond to Dr. Phillips' question, but I can't start talking without just echoing. I mean, I have the pleasure, so organizationally, to work closely with Jocelyn as her supervisor, and wow, this is, the presentation is just kind of sums up every other week when we meet. I'm just like, how do you do it all in one day? And really having visited scale and seeing the student leadership and seeing all of the work and the culture and the feeling, it's just really appreciated the hard work that you put in. But directly to respond to your question, in addition to the regular check-ins that Jocelyn has with us in the district office, she also joins our principals meetings, and so those, as a reminder, our principals meet once or twice a month. It depends on the month and what's happening during the school year. During this season of MCAS, it's typically once a month, and we start with 2 hours of instructional rounds where we visit classrooms, and for the first hour, then we discuss what we saw and talk about implications for practice in the second hour, and then the final hour is a business meeting, if you will, a logistics meeting that, principals just kind of always need an update of information and a time to get feedback. And so Jocelyn's able to join those. And the first one that she joined, during that third hour, she actually did a presentation of an overview for Scale and named the Para Pipeline program, so that connection could start being made of, we will have people ready to come into your schools to get hours. And so there are a lot of really thrilled principals about that as well. So just to respond to your question.
Yeah, Dr. Carmona?
So I just want to add an anecdotal statement. I know when I first came into the district, there was a question about where does Scale belong? And I continue to be wondering about that. But in my mind, we owe it to kids, all right? We owe it to kids that at some point haven't been able to make it through our regular system. Even if it's 1 or 5, I feel that this system of giving students a choice, a pathway, is to me where we show who we are. And so the commitment has been made around how do we make sure that the work that happens at a Scale is also rigorous, is also open, as well as provides access to most of the students. So I think that I'm fully committed to the idea of making sure that the Scale is embedded in our systems. And I know that there is a braided funded system, but I feel that as much as we can claim ownership of the work that happens and the support that not only happens for our students, but for the fabric of the community, I feel that this is a true effort of community support. So I really want to thank you because you have really stepped up and really deliver upon the promise of making sure that we provide access to all our kids.
Thank you for that. I wanted to share too that recently, to showcase the amount of work that goes behind helping support people, we enrolled our first visually impaired student. And before we did that, this was a referral that came from DESE, from ACLS, from Mike Pharma, who really believed that we could handle it, And we met with the Mass Commission for the Blind, DDS, because the student is a client of DDS, the advisor and myself, really looking at what are the needs of the student. And then we met with the student who's dying to come in and say, I need to get my diploma, because he's like, I want to be an advocate for people like me. He's isolated at home, doesn't have a lot of opportunities in adulthood. So we did that. We worked with the mobility specialist who came in with him more than 5 times. We trained our clerks and our career advisor, myself, to provide support to this student. And he comes in 3 days a week, and he's the first one arriving. And we were able to get him a laptop so we could download JAWS and he could have access to this thing in the classroom. I reached out to the special education director and asked for support to see if there was any visually impaired teacher within the district that could provide some guidance to the teacher, because the teacher was hesitant. She has a classroom full of people and she's like trying to figure out. But my message to her and to everyone is like, we must do better. You know, everyone has an opportunity. They should have an equal opportunity to come to scale. And we're going to be better because of what we learn. Like, we're learning with each other. And it is a challenge. You know, he can be a handful, but we really want to see him succeed. And I say he's going to be the first of many, you know, because we're here to meet the needs of the adult, you know, students that come to us. So just want to share that.
That's great. Dr. Ackerman, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, thank you for sharing that. That's true inclusion. What's up with that? So I have a comment, and then I'll end on a question, which I'm not sure is to you or to the district. You know, this is my own personal stance that I think the fact that any Somerville student goes through the system, however long they're with us, and departs without a diploma potentially due to MCAS, I think it is unconscionable. And I'm hoping that, you know, part of the increased work that you do is that for those students who can't, you know, can't pass MCAS and we can't get the portfolio together, I truly hope that that goes, because if they go through our system and we have failed them and they don't get a diploma, I truly see that as a failure on our part. So I'm happy to hear that you're building that work, and I hope that no student who comes through the system leaves without a diploma. I think that was too many negatives. I'm excited to hear about the phlebotomy. I just want to make a note for the district, if there are other sort of after hours potential uses of CTE equipment that might be for your students, I would encourage that exploration and us to find funding, because I think that'd be wonderful. And then my last thing is a question. I had a constituent who is one of the founding and very active members of Padres Latinos. One of the frustrations she has expressed to me was that there are paraeducators getting these certifications who then, as she has relayed to me, that, you know, are told like their English isn't strong enough to work in the district. Has that been your experience? And if so, what more can we be doing? Because this is an amazing program, to make sure that we are doing right, you know, and getting, we're not just getting people certified, we want them to be employable, right? Like, a certification doesn't matter if you're not employable. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
So from my experience, right, running this program before, we initially started with an ELL level 4, thinking, oh, we can make it happen. And like I said, the test is really written at an associate's degree level. And we're setting ourselves up for failure, and we're setting the people up for failure if they are that level. And we took some students, and they were not able to pass. And we provided a lot of support along the way, more hours and all of that. So that's why we felt that, you know, we needed to have a higher level of ESOL. But what we are doing is, for those students that are interested, is really putting them in our classes and saying, work in this class for this year, and then we'll give you an opportunity next year to be able to do that. Because ultimately, we want to make sure that they pass the test and get a job. You know, I don't want them to not be successful. So definitely, yeah. Oh yeah, yes, definitely, yes. Thank you.
All right. Oh, yes, Mrs. John, thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. In the past, there were some constraints or concerns about the space at scale. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and what possibly the school committee or the district is looking into to address that. I mean, it's so exciting to hear things like programming in our elementary schools, which is, I think, here I'm going back in the Wayback Machine, I think we used to do that. We would offer English language courses in particular because we're meeting families where they are. Yes. So I'd just like to hear a little bit more about space constraints and strategies.
Definitely space constraint. I think one of the things that we did this year is like really getting rid of a lot of books and cleaning. I mean, we did a lot of cleaning, and we took rooms that were full of stuff. For example, there was a staff lounge that was one of the largest rooms full of books for the staff that was not being used. I said, no, we're getting rid of it. We're turning this into a classroom. And it's actually the paraeducator classroom, because we have 20 people, and we use it for the Spanish HSC, which we have 35. So we're able to fit them there. But it is a challenge. As we're growing, you know, that's why I added the classes in the afternoon when we don't have that many classes. That way we can serve more people. But our wait list right now is over 400. Over 400 people are waiting for ELL classes right now. Every single day, we have people who recently arrived into Somerville coming in groups of 3, 4, and 5 and applying, or applying online, you know? So it is the challenge. I would love to take everyone, and they come in and they ask, when they're gonna call me, when you're gonna call me? And unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to keep adding more people because we don't have the funding to hire more teachers, and the teachers will complain if I give them 30 people in a class, they would not be happy with me. But we are filling up the classes to 20, 22, sometimes 25, which before used to be 15, but it's like we have all these people, we have to serve them,
So may I follow up? Through you, Chair. So the constraint is not necessarily just space, but in terms of funding.
Funding, yes.
To be able to staff to offer more
Like
classes.
I mentioned, all of our teachers are part-time with the exception of the 2 that we added this year full-time. And I think that made a difference because now the full-time teacher can teach in the morning, can teach in the afternoon, and we can serve some of those, people on the list,
And may I follow up through the Chair? You said there's a 400-person wait list right now, particularly for English learning.
Mostly, yeah. For
Mostly
AD, we're able to bring them in very quickly because people are passing tests, so we have the space.
And are there a mixture? I mean, what's the percentage of them are Somerville residents or even?
Almost a half.
Okay, Somerville families.
And those are the ones that are prioritizing. Like the classes we added in January, those extra classes, they were, I would say, 90% Somerville residents.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Just to give some statewide context for that, that is actually, after a fairly large statewide expansion of ESL funding, that's still actually a fairly manageable wait list. There's a lot of ESL programs in the state. That's why I was saying we need to be pushing for more and better funding statewide for ESOL.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Barish.
Through you, I don't know if this is a question that you can ask, but to follow up on Ms. Patone's question, it sounds like DESE almost reimburses you. It sounds like you have to have the enrollment or prove the enrollment, and then they give you funding. Is there any rule against, for example, the city front-loading the funding? And again, I don't know if you know the answer to this question.
Honest with you, that's one of the things that we're looking at to see if the city could support more like ELL classes. I've been talking to the staff in the city about that. They were going to propose it in the budget, I believe. But with DESE, what it is based on how much you are funded for. So if they give you slot for this year, that's what you have this year. If you increase the number, if you go above what they expected, then that can give you, like next year, I expect 5% increase because we met our numbers. And but it's not like huge. That's the problem. So, and with staff salaries going up, that 5% goes.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marte, and I want to thank you. Thank you, everyone. I want to also thank you, the rest of the team. Someone at some point said there is a utilization of data that we haven't talked about, and I hear through your voices and your thinking that data plays a rigorous place in your decision. So I really thank you for your attention to that and also for making sure that you provide the access you do. You really embody this idea of access and equity. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night. Like to continue with your report?
So I'm still. You guys, I know it's late for you. You actually, please, if you need to head out, I don't know if it's a 1-minute recess. Is that through the chair or not? Or no? No.
I would hesitate to just because it's so late.
So good. Yeah, okay. So if you feel you need to go, please go ahead and have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming. But if not, stay with us. I still have a few more things in our report, so I'm going to switch to the shout-outs. And I know we have a very critical one. I want to thank Principal Sean McGuire and congratulate him on his retirement this year. Woo-hoo. So this is Sean's last school year at Brown's School as a Brown School principal, where he has served excellently for 9 years. Under his leadership, the Brown School hired talented staff and teachers, earned high student achievement scores, and the school has been honored several times for their MCAS scores and student growth. He will be missed by those of us in administration, his students, his educators and staff, and the Brown school families. Congratulations, Principal McGuire. Thank you. So in case you missed it, April 24 was Administrative Assistant Appreciation Day. Our administrative assistants are the glue that hold our offices together and the heartbeat of our schools. Thank you to all our administrative assistants. Thank you. Woo-hoo. And the last congratulations on my part is to the 14 career and technical education students who competed in the Skills USA state competition last weekend. So the students prepared for hours in the classroom ahead of the event. 3 Somerville High School juniors won medals. Ellie G's won a bronze medal in technical drafting. Haley Machado won a silver medal in technical drafting as well. And Sam Ryan won a gold medal in advertising design and has been invited to compete at the national competition in Atlanta, Georgia, to represent Team Massachusetts as well as Somerville High School. Thank you to advisors Dan Bedell, Rich McClory, and Amy Corrijo for bringing the students to this 2-day event. Thank you. I'm going to have Assistant Superintendent of Operations Chad to share the next shout-outs, and then just Assistant Superintendent Boston Davis.
All right, through the chair. Summer programming, thanks to the work of our dedicated staff, we're able to offer a robust set of programming for the summer, as we normally do. Several options. We have robotics, music programming, there's academic enrichment, there's recovery programs and programs for our MLE students. So we have something for just about everyone. But again, that is not an all-encompassing list. Most of these are free of charge, which you know, and I do want to thank a few people. Rosanna Parabella, who was our OST director, Janae Riley, who was our manager of programs and partnerships, and to everyone else who's involved, from curriculum to administrative staff, in organizing this. As you know, we start summer discussions in December, because we know the amount of work that goes into providing robust programming. SU President Simmons was our director, one of the co-directors for the last couple of years, and did a phenomenal job. So he kind of paved the way in terms of what programs we offer, the hands-on support. So we are excited about this summer. We have a lot of work still to do, but we are in a very good place in terms of our summer programming with registration. We'll have we'll meet with Food Nutrition Director Lauren Mancini to talk about breakfast and lunches, so that everything is a go once we start summer programming. The other piece is around food nutrition services, and they're getting kids to eat breakfast. The department is working hard to provide healthy, filling, and exciting meals for students. In an effort to entice more high school students to eat breakfast, they introduced a highly popular new breakfast item, overnight oats, which has gone over very well at the high school. Director Mancini and her staff, they always develop new recipes, and they test them on staff and students and get their feedback, because that is how you know whether or not something is going to stay. They're always working very hard, given dietary restrictions, religious considerations, on creating new and exciting meals for our students, and healthy meals. Recently, they've added many international recipes, including Indian and Latin foods. So again, I just want to thank that department. A lot of times their work goes unnoticed. It's not an easy job by any means, but I think it's a department that really deserves our accolades and our support for the work that they do in feeding all of our students, given the complexities that many of our students have.
And through the chair, the final shout out goes to an organization an event called Belle of the Ball. So as seniors are preparing to wind down their Somerville High School careers and celebrate with one celebration, the senior prom, which is on May 17th, 25 of our seniors went to the Belle of the Ball event at the Heinz Convention Center to pick out free prom dresses. There's also a dozen prom dress closets available to students with several dozen newly donated dresses. So I want to shout a huge thank you to the staff, Nahimi St. Louis, Nai Paia, and Aline Santana for working with our students to make sure that they will have a great prom. So thank you.
Does that conclude your report? The personnel report?
Personnel report.
Okay. Personnel report.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the only retirement that we need to highlight here is Sean McGuire's, Principal McGuire retirement. I think you have heard of the other retirements and all the other changes that we have had in our rosters. The only thing I wanted to highlight also is that all our 24, 25 positions have been posted, including the summer ones. And in checking on those numbers, we're talking about 121 posted positions. So, I was wondering, well, what does that mean in relationship to other things? And so that's the number because of leave of absences, non-renewals, as well as retirement. So I was told that that's kind of part and parcel of the process that happens during the summer. So I just wanted to share that for our enrollment report, personnel report.
Ms. Parrish?
Thank you. I will echo your congratulations to Mr. McGuire on his retirement and ask what the process looks like for hiring an interim or a permanent principal for that role.
Through the chair, yes, we are sending a letter to the community to emphasize the transition Mr. McGuire will be experiencing, and we will be letting know the entire community what are the next steps around that. Karen Woods will be leading that process, and also I believe there's a letter that was sent to the Brown community in regards to that. So that's coming next, yeah.
Mr. Green?
Maybe you said it and I missed it, but is this going to be an interim hire, or are we looking for permanent?
I think it's late in the season, so my advice would be an intern hire. So that is usually at this time of the year, but that's a conversation we can have with the community as well.
Follow up?
Okay, as a follow-up, because we are in budget season, and the Brown has historically had fewer administrators for obvious reasons, smaller school than other districts. Have you thought about possibly having increased support next year for said interim principal?
We have in our budget recommendations there's an adjustment based on that request. So that's part of the budget process. So I think we can discuss it there.
Thank you.
Ms. Patton?
Thank you, through you, Chair Krupchen. This might be a little micro question, but I was looking at the resignations for retirement, and there are 2 automotive teachers that retired this year, but I don't see a new hire as an automotive teacher. Is there going to be a gap for these students in terms of the experience the CTE automotive students are experiencing? I just hadn't flagged it or noticed it. I'd love to hear about that.
Thank you for pointing that out. I know that Jim Hatchie, the director, has been very aggressive at trying to recruit folks, and I have also been committed to that. I know we were losing one, and he hired one, but he hasn't brought up any other any challenges at this point. I know that there was a challenge of we had one, but there's another one that we're posting for.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Is there nothing else on the personnel report? That brings us to reports of subcommittees. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the ed programs, finance and facilities, ed programs April 4th, finance facilities April 10th, and finance April 24th. Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Dr. Ackman.
Sorry, in the packet was also ed programs for March I don't know, it was 21st, I have to go back and look. Was that, I don't think that one's been approved yet. Was that,
I think it just didn't end up on the agenda by mistake.
okay, can I add it, or does it need to be posted?
To be safe, let's just post it next week,
Okay.
just to be on the safe side. So we have 3 reports to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to MSBA update. Dr. Carmona?
Through the chair, so I think it's in your packet, but I'll just highlight a couple of things. So the mayor's team submitted a brief memo providing an update on the status of the school building committee, as well as the SPS Construction Advisory Group. I would like to highlight a few salient points that may have been touched on in the memo. My team participated in interviews of interested applicants for the SBC, which is the committee required by the MSBA. As the district, we are most committed to ensuring a school building committee that is representative of our community. While it is up to the mayor who she will ultimately appoint, we have strongly pushed for the need to have a parent voice from both the Winter Hill and the Brown community at the committee. Similarly, at the SPS Construction Advisory Group, as the group is being formed, I will continue to advocate for an inclusive and representative group. Ultimately, this process is being decided by the mayor, but my role as the leader of SPS is to advocate for our district and for the Winter Hill and Brown school communities. So you have the memo, and that's kind of the feedback that we got from the city, and we ask to have a presentation tonight, and so that's what we got.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to report out of coordinated office hours, which I'm guessing Mr. Butone is still waiting for responses from the rest of the committee.
That is correct, and thank you to those of you who have submitted it to me, and to those who haven't. You have my email address, and I will report out next week.
Sounds great. That brings us to the reorganization, which Dr. Carmona and I discussed not voting on this evening because there are still some pieces to be worked on, but I believe Dr. Carmona wants to give us an update on where that is.
Through the chair, thank you. I know that this conversation hasn't happened openly and officially through this avenue, so I just wanted to have that conversation with you. Before I get into that, though, I think we often, when we talk about this kind of reorganizations, we don't get into, we talked about positions, we don't get into individual names, but I just wanted to highlight that the direct impact that this reorganization is going to have on a beloved member of our team is worth discussing and worth sharing with you. I think that you can see tonight was a show of emotion for the passion that Chad has displayed around the work that he does with kids and the community in general. And we know that that's something that has been with everyone, especially in difficult times. So, through the trajectory as a principal, as assistant superintendent for curriculum, and as assistant superintendent for operations, he has left a mark in all of those places. So I think it's a testament of not only his commitment to the work, his commitment to Somerville, but also of his flexibility and his skill set. And again, I know that this is not the time and place when we talk about that, but I think it's important to recognize and to honor the commitment and the contribution of our partner and colleague, Chad Massa. So having said that also, I wanted to emphasize that this reorganization is aimed at better aligning our systems with our strategic goals, which are centered on maximizing students' success and equitable outcomes. The rationale for this goes beyond creating much-needed efficiencies. This reorganization is also responsive to the overwhelming feedback that we receive from students, staff, families through the entire entry planning process. So we heard loud and clear from the SPS community that we need to rebalance our resources to prioritize student-facing initiatives, including bolstering academics, out-of-school time offerings, wellness, and equity-informed practices. So given the overwhelming response that we got from through our focus groups and our feedbacks, we're confident that this reorganization aligns with the priorities that have been identified in the entry plan by SPS students, families, and staff. I wanted to give time to the committee to ask questions about what they see, what they understand, and also to open the conversation for the process for a conversation.
Mr. Buton.
Thank you, through you, Chair. This is a very difficult document, and mainly for the reason you identified in opening this conversation. This, in many ways, is an austerity reorganization, the way I see it. And it's looking for efficiencies where we can find them, and refocusing support in student-facing and directly student supporting roles. That said, there's one, and I've raised this question in our Finance Committee of the whole subcommittee, this question around the revised principal coaching model, and in particular, the addition of a principal coach. I have deep reservations around this addition, and I understand and I appreciate the perspective that you have provided, Mr. Superintendent, around need for a career path and retention and advancement for current principals. However, in a district of our size, I have a lot of trouble seeing how the addition of this position fits with this kind of austerity approach. So I guess it's not a question, but just a statement of my deep reservation around that particular element of this reorganization plan. And I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? Ms. Buton?
Thank you, through the chair, to the superintendent. Clearly a great deal of work went into this, and it sounds like a lot of data and information and survey information really guided the direction of where the organization, where the superintendent wants to move the organization to reflect the needs of the community. And creating shifts is not surprising in a new for the cabinet moving forward, as we as a district had a superintendent leave kind of with a last minute notice. We had a team come together and try to establish the best possible situation to move us forward successfully with that very short notice. You know, with that interim leadership, there wasn't going to be a lot of rationalization or shifts in the leadership model. And so decisions were made last year, and now we're kind of at this hard place. I don't know if I would see this, I don't know if I quite agree that this is an austerity budget, but I do, there's a loss here, obviously, from a personnel standpoint of you know, someone that I personally care about a ton. But we don't want to focus, we have to focus on the roles and responsibilities and what the district and our leadership believes is going to move us forward in the best way. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But I also, I've had a few questions that I put out to the superintendent. You know, we have a history of facilities challenges in our district, and certain things were put in place, including this role, including a new committee between school committee and city council to try to provide and elevate the issues. And the city has increased their staffing, thankfully, to provide more, not only more leadership, but a more attention to this work. And so there's just really been a sea change, and I know Mr. Mazza was part of this sea change work. And so I want to make sure, it may be the position of the superintendent that we don't necessarily need a full role for the director, the assistant superintendent of operations, but I do want to make sure we have a point of accountability around facilities, because that's something that has been a challenge for a long time. And when I say accountability, I see this district as the client to the city. So the city is the service provider to the district, and the district is the client who receives the services. And if we are not a good client, if we don't manage that relationship, we don't create accountability, we, we're not going to be successful moving forward. So that was a question I had put to the superintendent in previous meetings, and I want to put it out in public, that I want to make sure I really understand, as different responsibilities are shifting around in this new model, where does the buck stop when it comes to facilities? And I don't necessarily espouse for a model like we had in the past, where every single principal was on their own trying to, drum up 311 to solve the problems. And I certainly want something that includes the strategic vision, which we are getting more from the city, thank goodness. So again, we are in a very different place than we were 2 years ago in terms of the city stepping up. So I've talked enough, but I think you get my question around where does the buck stop in terms of facilities, because right now it sits at that role that we will no longer have according to this proposal.
Yeah, through the chair, I think the question around prioritization and also understanding critical decisions about the things that need to be done is still one that is evolving. When you talk about the system that has been built at the city level, you still have DPW, you have capital improvements, you have folks that are new to that, you have a new director of a superintendent of buildings, you have so there's a lot of positions that actually are being moved into a place in which is being formed. Is that right? There's also systems that are being built, like the 311. When I first came in and there was a crisis around the infrastructure or the stairwell, the first question was like, how did we get here? Is that right? So, and so this is not something that happened exactly. We didn't have time, but this didn't happen overnight. And I think that the question was like, how do we make sure that system that is being created is really serves not only the city but also the district? And in conversations that, Chad and I have continued to discuss how do we actually look at this 311 system that still doesn't do exactly what we need. Is a program that is clunky, doesn't allow us to sort by need or by building, and so even under the best conditions, we still don't have the infrastructure that needs to be in place. So we have to look into that. Part of my work also is to make sure that such a delicate subject, in which, this has caused multiple challenges to not only teachers but our community in general. So I don't want to see anything like this happen. So I know that I'm fully on the hook, if you will, for something that has had years of I don't want to say if it's neglect or not, but this is something that didn't happen overnight. Is that right? And so it requires full attention in different places. But I think it's the systems that are built in place. I know that Amara is also working in collaboration with everyone in my office around how do we make sure that we create a system that actually does what it needs to do for us. So we're working on that. It's not a final project. Even in checking with both, this morning when we talked about budget, it's like, we still haven't had the conversations around how do we systematize the work from the different departments that do this work for the city, for the city and the district, actually.
Dr. Phillips.
Thanks. Through you, Chair, I just want to respond to Member Bitone's comment. And one of the things I've been thinking about as I read through various iterations of the reorganization plan, I keep hearing one of Dr. Carmona's references in my mind, who told me, yeah, he's masterful at aligning resources and building coherence. And I see that very clearly in the reorganization plan. It's really clear that everything we're doing is focused on our kids. When I think about so schools, right, don't make a ton of difference in student outcomes, right? But the biggest school-based predictors of student outcomes are teachers and principals. And so anything we can do to make sure our kids have the best teachers and principals is a good bang, I think, for our buck. We don't have great coaching in Somerville for our teachers, and we're building that out. And we've had nothing for principals in a formal way, and this is like the first time we're getting it. So I would say that this is not an austerity budget, but an alignment of our resources towards our goals in a really thoughtful, good way, from my perspective.
You just want to respond?
Through the chair, I just want to contribute to the fact that the cost of the coach is also partially financed by some of the realized savings, and that will be realized once if we have a principal coach. We will not be utilizing all the resources, or we'll be utilizing them partially. So that's not a full cost.
And then I also just wanted to bring up, I know Ms. Patone has brought up a chart, a reorg chart. So if that's something that we could do.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, it's I checked with my former interim superintendent. I asked him, how did you get your charters? Like, well, mine, I got it in the summer, because that's when I had the time. And so really it has been a matter of bandwidth. And so this is just the moving pieces. We are close to finalizing all this. And so I am hoping that probably in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to have something that provides some clarity around not only the adjustments that we're making around operations, but is across the board. Like, SFLC is also being adjusted in terms of where they see it in the entire organization. And as you know, they have had a significant impact on all the work that we have done, from the entry plan to influencing all the other teams that we have in the district. So I am trying to infuse some of that de-siloing the systems that we have. And so we will share that through the visual of the reorg.
Mr. John?
Through the superintendent, through the chair to the superintendent. So it sounds like, but we won't have an org chart before we vote on this.
Most likely. I'll do my best, but I don't know if there's anything that I can show you on a. When is the next time we meet?
We meet again next Monday.
I'll see you for coffee on Thursday.
Good. I'll do my best.
Dr. Ekman?
Thank you. Through the chair, while I do think we need one, I just want to note that the superintendent has, as far as formal structural organization, built something from nothing, formally at least. It's not that there wasn't oversight, because our staff did amazing work, but the systematizing, I'm impressed with how far we've come in this amount of time, and I don't think I need to see one to vote on it.
Okay, with that, this will be on our agenda again next Monday, which brings us to some field trips. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the following field trips. Can I do them all together?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
May 15th, 2024 to May 17th, 44 6th grade students from Argenziano School will visit Nature's Classroom in Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Travel via bus, student cost $0. May 18th to May 19th, 2024, 18 students from Somerville High School will travel to Pioneer Valley Invitational in Northampton, Massachusetts to compete in a 2-day Boys and Girls Ultimate Frisbee competition. Travel via bus, student cost $0. May 25th to May 26th, 2024, 20 students from Somerville High School will travel to Pioneer Valley Invitational in Northampton, Massachusetts to compete in a 2-day Boys and Girls Ultimate Frisbee competition. Travel via bus, student cost $0. May 28th to May 30th, 2024, 36 8th grade students from West Somerville Neighborhood School will travel to Washington, D.C. Travel via motor coach transportation, student cost $350. And And May 31st, 2024, 12 students from Somerville High School Automotive will travel to New England Dragway and Epping, New Hampshire. Travel via school bus, student cost $0. June 6th, 2024, 10 students from Next Wave will travel to Kenneby Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire. Travel via school van, student cost $25. June 7th, 2024, 40 8th grade students from Healy School will travel to Kenneby Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire. Travel via private bus, student cost $40. And June 13th, 2024, 57 8th grade students from the Kennedy School will travel to Kenneby Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire. Travel via bus, student cost $0.
I have a motion by Ms. Barish, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bitton?
Thank you. Just wanted, through you, just wanted to highlight how many of these student trips are $0 cost for students, and thank our generous partners at the PTAs and families who are contributing generously to subsidize these trips. I know that the West Somerville Neighborhood School PTA has put down or pledged something like $15,000 for the DC trip to get that cost down. So just wanted to reinforce the amazing work that goes into all of these trips across our city. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Bitton?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes. And two questions. One, some of the trips from some schools, there's been commitments in the past to allow students to attend even if they couldn't afford to attend. And I don't know if that's still something that's part of our model. So if it is, I want to applaud it. And then the other piece is, this is the time of year to do dot the i's and cross the t's and make sure all the trips that have to come to us, because I don't think these are all of them. And some of them have probably already come, but this is an ask to the superintendent, through the chair to the superintendent, just to make sure that we've got everything, because nobody wants to have that last minute call of who can do a Thursday morning Zoom to approve field trips.
Thank you for that reminder. Did you want to respond?
Through the chair, thank you. Yes. So on the field trip, there are two things based on your questions. On the field trip form, when they're filled in and sent to the superintendent's office, there is a line of what is the plan if students cannot pay for the trip. In other words, that's not the exact phrasing, but in other words, there needs to be a way for every child to attend, even if they can't afford to attend. And virtually 100, almost all of them say either PTA or family donations, as Mr. Bitton just mentioned, or there is no cost to the trip for students. So there is a line required to be filled out before they come to our office. And the second part is, we do request that any trip that's overnight or out of state and needs to be approved by this body comes to our office at least 6 weeks in advance of the trip. And we've made that very clear. So we are hoping that everything that you need to approve is in the, are on your table to approve, but we will absolutely, in an upcoming principals meeting, I can also just kind of remind one more time that if there are any trips that they need to be sent immediately.
Thank you for that. If there is nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to acceptance of grants. I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept all federal entitlements and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to the Somerville Public Schools listed below. MyCap Development and Implementation Grant for School Sites, additional allotment of $1,992. Scale Adult Education and Family Literacy, additional allotment of $13,000. Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Grant, Early Education, an additional allotment of $103,000. FY24 FC 126 Computer Science Engage Grant, additional allotment of $9,717 to cover additional staff interest in our program.
I have a motion by Dr. Phillips. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Ackman. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to donations. I will entertain a motion.
Motion for, to accept with gratitude the following donations. Workshop tools from Robert Bosch Tools Corporation for $7,204.06 to the CTE Carpentry Program, and equipment donation from Total Air Supply Allen Velleman for $7,400 to the CTE HVAC Program.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Fatone, seconded by Mr. Bitone. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Bitone.
Just a quick thank you through you to the superintendent for providing some background information in our packets on these. I appreciated just understanding what was coming in, and it was just nice to have that in the packet. Thank you.
Agreed. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to items from committee members. Does anyone have any items? Ooh, everyone's got stuff today. All right, I'll start over here. Ms. Parrish.
Thank you. Through you, I know Mr. Bitone is going to report out on our office hours, but there was one thing that I just wanted to follow up on and request some information from the administration. I received several questions about the length of lunch and the length of recess, which is something that we hear about periodically from families and students, generally asking for longer lunch and longer recess. And I realize that I don't fully understand how those things are established. It's my understanding that each school has a different schedule. Principals are responsible for determining who will go to lunch when. I don't know if principals are responsible for determining how long lunch or recess is. And I'm curious to know whether there's any variation throughout the district as far as how much lunchtime or recess time students get at the various schools, because I think that would be helpful information if we are to begin a conversation about how we might lengthen lunch and recess for our students. So I'm not asking for that information now, but if you could provide some kind of summary, just how these things are determined. We don't have a policy. Some districts have a policy that say, you know, lunch will last at least 20 minutes, recess will last at least 20 minutes. We don't have that as far as I know. So I'm just not sure how principals are provided guidance on those things. So any and all information would be terrific at a later date.
At a later date, yes. And just to piggyback on that, in case you all, I don't know if everyone received it or just I did, but I got a very sweet petition from a bunch of students at the West Somerville School requesting longer lunch and recess. So just to add on to that. Okay, I'll just go in order here. Dr. Phillips?
I don't know if we need to do this. I only know we're supposed to do this because of you, but we approved the March bill rolls at our subcommittee meeting, but it's a whole meeting of the whole. Do we still need to do it here?
Everything we vote in a subcommittee, we are supposed to vote for in open session. So yes, thank you. And
so I would like to move that we approve the March bill rolls.
Second.
Yes, motion by Dr. Phillips, seconded by Dr. Ackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for that reminder. Dr. Ackman, did you have something? No. Okay. Ms. Patone.
Thank you, through you, Chair Krepchen. Thank you to Ms. Barish for bringing up the issue about lunch and recess, and I really personally would like this to be something that we spend some time on. Maybe we have to have a motion through the body and agree that this is a priority. We also know we're going into a contract next year, so that could be another. The timing is good, in my opinion. I had two quick things. One, really would like to hear what's going on with the high school field. I feel like I'm bringing this up every single meeting and nobody ever gives me any kind of answer. So I don't know if I need to make a motion about whether or not that the mayor answers the question about why we did a ribbon cutting in October, and it is now almost May, and the kids are, from what I understand, I could be wrong, are unable to use that field, and why we're not just, as we love to throw money at everything else, why can't we just put the money into dealing with whatever safety issues going on? So I make a motion to request to the mayor to answer the question about why the field is not open at the high school and what needs to happen.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Patone, seconded by Dr. Phillip. Dr. Ackman, looks like you had your hand up.
So I only know this because we were at a meeting recently where there were kids playing on the field. So I think it is being used, but I don't know by whom or for what.
I could be wrong.
No, it was a soccer game.
Through the chair, I know the Full Circle and Next Wave are using it for activities, for celebrations, and they're in the field playing. So, but don't, and I think that's what I've seen. So, but
If it's already open, then just let us know it's open and let us know how they're going to use it moving forward.
through the chair, I think we do need some clarity around that, and I think that that's, as an end user, I still am not fully, I know that there's a question about parity, there's a question about the issue of how to make sure that the design itself reflects the needs of our diversity in terms of, gender and all those things. So that is a question that I still am, as far as I know, hasn't been settled. So, and then there's also the other piece around the not the functionality, but the issue that it doesn't have there's some compliance issues that still are lingering. But I do also need to know, and so that's a mutual need. So we'll be looking into that.
Okay, and so I have a motion on the table by Ms. Batone, seconded by Dr. Ackman. Is there any further discussion? She just made a motion.
Right, but did you amend that in that the request is that if it is being used, we want to know that?
Yeah, we need an update on the field. Is it approved to being used and for what capacity? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I'll go to Mr. Bitone, and then I'll come back to Ms. Bitone. Mr. Bitone.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, to the superintendent and the district administration, I want to follow up on an item you spoke about in your district update in greater depth. In particular, I want to raise to your attention an incident that occurred at Somerville High School on Friday, April 26th, during the student-organized walkout to protest the war in Gaza. The incident was also raised a broader question about the excused absence policy and how we're supporting our students, and I'll touch upon this broader question sort of after first describing my specific concern. About the incident, a small group of students in the Somerville High School for Palestine organization gathered in the school building as they prepared for the walkout and to march down Highland Ave away from the high school. They held signs on school property that said, and I quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This chant is violent, and some who are uttering it may not know its origin. The phrase was originally adopted by the Armed Palestinian Liberation Organization and later by Hamas, which also called for the eradication of Israel. In Arabic, versions of the saying translate to either "from the water to the water," and I'm not going to read it in Arabic, which I don't know and would butcher. "From the water to the water, Palestine is Arab," or "Palestine is Islamic," both of which rhyme in Arabic. In other words, the chant is a call for the eradication of Jews entirely from the area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, in what is now Israel. Put more plainly, this is a call for ethnic cleansing or genocide. Among people who viewed these signs and chants are fellow SPS students and community members who are Jewish and who have family and friends who live in Israel. People who live in Israel face daily threats and violence at the hands of those who would see this chant, "From the river to the sea," through to its logical conclusion. That is, to annihilate the Jews from what is now the state of Israel. Let me be clear. This statement is rooted in anti-Semitism and hate speech espoused by those who commit violence and terror against Jews in Israel. This harmful, racist, and anti-Semitic speech should not be tolerated on school property. As a community, we've made many statements in support of our students' right to protest, and I fully agree with those rights. But the right to protest does not include the right to use anti-Semitic language or actions directed at people based on their ethnic, religious, or national origin, identity, or based on their beliefs. The right to protest does not include the right to intimidate or demonize people based on where they are from or based on their family's heritage. If students are given a space to protest, as they rightly should be, school leaders should provide support to help the students make choices that do not harm themselves or others. Also at Friday's protest, while holding these messages, some students wore face coverings, including full face masks, to obscure their identities. These are the same tactics employed by racist, nationalist, white supremacist organizations who cover their faces to hide their identities while they espouse their own hateful views in attempts to intimidate our communities. I fully support our Muslim and Palestinian students and families and their rights to free speech and to an education at our schools without fear of violence or hate. And by the same token, I fully support our Jewish and Israeli students and families and their rights to free speech and to an education at our schools without fear of violence or hate. No one should be made to feel less than or to feel unsafe in their school. The school committee has affirmed that position time and time again, and our stance this time should be no different. So I call on you, Superintendent, to condemn this hateful speech. And while I was heartened by your statement earlier this evening, it's not enough to state that the district does not endorse these statements. We must condemn hate speech in every context. I'm also asking for the high school to revisit its absence policy that provides a blanket excuse for protests without any definition or constraints and without regard for disruption to student learning. And I'll just tell you anecdotally that I heard classroom sizes across the high school were much smaller after 11 o'clock, and that did not match the size of the protest. If input is needed from the school committee, I welcome that discussion at a future meeting. No student should have any question about what speech is permissible on school grounds, and every student and employee should feel safe and welcome in our schools. So thank you for your continued efforts to care for and educate our students in what is a tremendously difficult time for many in our community. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Pachon, you had another item.
Through the chair, I also want to thank my colleague for speaking up tonight on a very difficult and passionate subject, so I just wanted to publicly thank you for that. My topic is less interesting or compelling, but I've asked the question a few times to the superintendent's office about the student advisory group. I really want an update in terms of when we're going to reenact that. I have a feeling that at this point in time, we've lost the opportunity with this cohort. So it's been, several months that I've brought up the idea that we don't have this, and I don't know if it's the challenges that we don't have a high school advisor to manage that work, because it's work, and I'm sure they get stipended. But if it's something that we cannot do right now for this end of the school year, although I would like to, that we're set up, at least we could start now to be set up for success for next year, because I personally get a lot of benefit about hearing directly from our students, and it's an opportunity for students to sort of bring forward their issues more directly than I think that our representatives are able to do in the capacity of the role that they have. When we have a whole Zoom session for 45 minutes before school starts, we get to hear a lot more, and we get to understand what their issues are. So I'm going to put that request to the chair and the superintendent to please create a plan and report out on what the plan is going to be. Thank you.
Okay. With that, do we have any condolences? Okay, with that, we are adjourned, everyone.